Hi, everyone, and welcome. Did you hear that pregnant pause? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. It's Thursday. Is it the 17th? It's the 17th of April, I think. I do believe. 2025. This is Paul English Live. We're here with you for the next couple of hours on WBN 324. Let's do some radio stuff. Tonight we're going to try and find out where all the free speech has gone to. Won't take too long, I think. So we'll have to talk about lots of other things as well, using free speech. Ugh. Groovy. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Hope you've had a good week. We've had a wonderful week. You know, we always start off with the weather here because it would be wrong to do anything else than to start off with the weather. So I've had a wonderful week of weather where I am. I live in a place called Sunny This, That and the Other. Literally, the name of my street is Sunny something or other. I'm keeping the other bit hidden so that I don't get detected somewhere in the universe. I'm just being silly, really. But it has been marvellously sunny here for the past 4 weeks. Must be 4 or 5 weeks, 45 weeks, something like that. And it's just been amazing. So I've been out walking all the time, and I'm as tanned as an Italian on a hot summer's day, really. Well, okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not too bad, really. Lots of lovely fresh sea breezes, a slight nip in the air, but blazing sunshine. And again, was another day without a cloud in the sky. Seriously, it's quite a thing. I'm getting a bit worried, though, because I'm beginning to think that all the summer allocation of sunshine is being given to us now. Because, you know, you never know what they're doing with their newfangled weather machines or even their old-fangled ones. And so, of course, there's always something to worry about, so I've decided to worry about that. Anyway, I have the usual clutch of other fretters and concerned paranoid communicators with me, and would like to welcome them all to the show. And I'll start off by introducing Eric, because you've just turned up. I think we did Paul last week, so you get in first. Eric, good evening.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And it's nice to hear that you've had some Japanese air conditioning fitted into your house, because you said there's a nip in the air.
There is.
Sorry, it's a terrible one. Yes, see?
There is.
Yeah, but yes, I thought I'd just start off with that. And you notice it's not a lavatorial gag, so it's a new one for me.
Well, the night is young, Eric. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for us all to verbally move into the toilet, as it were, and proceed, from that point forward. That'll be great.
I believe you're talking about Flashamax tonight. Is that right? I noticed by the English and chums, trench coats and that type of thing.
Yeah, well, it was just that the picture had trench coats in it, and I was desperately thinking around today. I thought, what do I call this one? As many people will have known, of course, if you're on the radio, everybody on WBN and on Radio SOAPBOX, you don't get to see our glorious graphics. We don't do sort of video stuff with this, but we are on video platforms because it gives us the chat rooms, which are fantastic. Hi, shout out to everybody in Rumble already. Great to have you here right at the start of the show. It's great to see that you're all so keen, as are we. But yes, it's just that the graphic just, I was looking for something yesterday and I saw this. I thought, I do like that. I like it a lot. I like sort of cartoony comic book things that are sort of classy and slightly elegant. And so we knocked that one up. Our resident high quality, hugely staffed graphics department knocked this up for me overnight and sent it back, and it just happens to have trench coats and trousers in it. And I also got the word trenchant in, or trenchant, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And so, I was I was using my alliteration skills here today. So we've got Trenchant, trench coat, and trouser transmission for this one. So there you go. And it's somebody else's turn next week to come up with a highly alliterative title for the show. But there we go. Are you wearing a trench coat, Eric? That's what I want to know. Have you got one on right now?
Not quite, no. But I actually did buy one. This must have been years ago, early 90s, late 80s. And it was a copy of a Scrutum or
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
Well, there was a place up in London called
Aquascrotum, did you say? What was that?
Aquascrotum, I think it was called. It was in Piccadilly, and it was a copy of a Aquascrotum or Aquascutum trench coat. I can't remember the name.
I think the full name you're looking for is Agroscrotum. I think is what the name of the brand.
Yes, that's
it's
what it
something
was.
like that, isn't it? Yes.
But I'll tell you something, it's an unbelievable trench coat because, it's made, as I say, it's made in Poland, and that was during the Cold War. And well insulated, it's built for a Polish winter. And I bought it in London, and I've still got it. Very nice it is. It's one of these trench coats you could never buy today because it's so well made. And but my late father used to moan in the late 60s, early 70s because they made trench coats shorter and shorter and shorter. My granddad used to moan as well. He called them backside freezers, but not exactly in those terms.
Really?
And have you noticed that trench coats got shorter and shorter until they're sort of up to your waist almost? Yeah. But the old ones, if you look at the pictures of people in the 1930s, they were very, very. They're only about used to be about 4 or 5 inches below the knee, didn't they? Very, very long. Kept you nice and warm. So there we go.
Yeah, I guess it gives added new meaning to the word Cold War. At least the Poles weren't as cold as, say, your dad with his short trench coat or something during the 60s and the 70s. Yeah.
Yes, his backside freezer. Because I remember him going at John Collier's. Anybody remember John Collier's? The Window to Watch?
Now, for listeners around the world, John Collier's was a men's outfitters here in jolly old England, wasn't it, in the 60s and the 70s? Yes.
Yes, and I think my granddad, and he went in there and he wanted to buy a trench coat, and he said, "This is a backside freezer," but not exactly in those words. "No, thank you. I don't want to pay that sort of money for a very short coat. I want a proper trench coat, please."
I would have liked to have gone shopping with him because, as blokes, we love shopping, don't we? We just love it. We love to go shopping.
Yes,
it's great.
Especially when he was with my mum. It was a cure for insomnia, shopping with my mother.
I'm shuddering a bit. I'm getting funny, I'm twitching a bit, really, thinking about those things. Yes, mothers were very earnest. My mum was a very earnest and keen shopper, and one had to move around. I think I've mentioned before, whenever we went to buy shoes, my heart used to sink. It really did. It was just incredible. Right, Paul, yes, we're going down to Leeds city centre, yes, to buy you a pair of shoes. Or do we have to? Yes, we do. And it wasn't like the first pair I saw, they'll do. No, they won't. And we would have to go to at least 4 shops. And when you're sort of 10 and 11 or even 9, I remember it's very difficult to sort of stay focused in shoe shops. They're very, very dull places. Although I always like the shoehorns and trying to slip my feet into small shoes and things like that, because they're toys, aren't they, really?
Yes.
But my mum had been raised as a shoe fitter. It was one of her jobs in the 50s before she decided to get serious and marry my father. And so she knew a thing or two about shoes and welts and stitching and all this kind of stuff. And so if they were ropey, I couldn't have them. And we would often end up going back to the very first shop, of course, that we'd been to, much to my pleasure. See, I told you these were the right ones. And and get the shoes. Yeah, of course, that's when I've still got a pair of shoes. Actually, I was wearing them only the other day. I've got a fantastic pair of English gentleman's leather shoes, which must be, I think they're about 30 years old now, and you can't tell. A, because I've barely worn them. I've worn them possibly 24 times, usually for weddings and christenings. Actually, I haven't been to any christenings, funerals, that kind of thing, or posh occasions, which as you know, I go to loads now. I'm going to lots of posh occasions, and they're in the most fantastic nick. I had them quarter-tipped. Does anybody know what I'm referring to when I say quarter-tipped?
Makes your
No.
eyes water.
What does it mean?
So on the to stop the heel wearing down on full leather shoes, which of course they tend to do or used to if you were wearing them a lot, you can put you can go to a cobbler. In fact, when I bought these, I didn't even wear them as I paid for them. They cost me a bomb at the time. They're very well made, and I took them straight to a cobbler. I said, "Will you put a quarter tip in that?" And he said, "Sure." So on the where would it be? The inside, is it the inside or the outside part of the heel? I can't remember. I think it's the inside.
I think.
It's the
Is it?
Yeah, it might be. It's wherever you think your foot. It would be the outside, wouldn't it? So as you put your foot down, I think it's the outer heel that hits the road first. What they do is they saw like quarter of the actual leather heel off, down to 1/8 of an inch, and they replace it with metal, and it's banged in with some nails, and it's great. And when you march along, you sound like a very small military platoon. It makes the most fantastic sound. And I was out in them the other day, and my son doesn't have these. He said, "Why are your shoes making that sound?" I said, "Because they're proper. That's why, my lad. They're proper." He said, "What do you mean?" So I showed him. He said, "Can I get those done to my shoes?" I said, "Well, not those with rubber soles. No, you can't. But when you get a pair of proper British leather shoes, men's shoes, to go with your trench coat later on in life, of course, is what I meant, you can get them quarter tipped." And I remember there was a day once, I'm getting all silly now, but I'm looking at these guys with trench coats. I think my dad had a big sort of raincoat and all that kind of stuff. And of course, he used to wear trousers as well. You're wearing trousers tonight, Eric, aren't you? Is everybody wearing trousers tonight?
Yes, I'm wearing
Everybody got
trousers,
trousers
yes.
on? Good,
Yeah,
excellent.
I've got blue jeans.
Okay, they'll do. Paul, you're wearing trousers, yes? You got some trousers on?
I'll never say. I'll never tell.
Well, this puts a sort of frisson of excitement into the show. I quite like this, although it's a bit worrying at the same time. So let's swiftly move on. But I remember once waiting outside a bank for my dad, my first encounters with banks, not that I knew it was a bank. And he told me to wait outside, and he came walking along, and his shoes had something similar in them. I don't know if it was quarter tips. It might have been segs, where you nail him into the shoe. And he came walking on it. It made the most fantastic crunching sound. And if I hear that crunching sound, I'm immediately taken back to being about 8 years of age, waiting outside for this bank for my dad to arrive. And nobody needed to know any of this, but now you do. So there'll be a test later on in the show. Did you remember Paul's escapade with his father's shoes? Yes.
Who remembers Blakey's? Remember Blakey's?
Yes.
put
Were
them
they
on your
the
shoes.
makers of segs?
Yeah, you just hammered them on. They used to have
That's
yeah, and they used to come off occasionally.
They did.
But when he was walking along, they made a fantastic. And when I was at school, the kids who came by bus used to sit at the back. You know, they used to have a platform you got on, and
Yeah.
they used to put their shoes down on. Did they used to do that when you was at school?
Yes.
And you have all sparks flying up from their shoes.
Yes.
Because used to sit, until the bus conductor caught them. You know, very dangerous, but we survived.
We had
I
similar
never did it, but-
childhoods, Eric. I mean,
Yes.
Patrick and Paul, do you have segs in America? Metal things. They're like military boots. I don't know what your military boots are like now. Maybe neither of you have worn a pair, if ever, or not recently. But they're like
Segs.
Yeah, they're like a horseshoe, but for men's shoes. They're like a metal plate with spikes, and you literally hammer them into the heel and all over the sole. And what it does is it reduces the rate of wear on the leather soles. So you're actually walking around on a platform of steel. And Eric's absolutely right. There was like a competition to see how many you could get into your shoes. Not by me. I was reasonably sensible, apart from which my mum would have knocked 10 bells out of me if I'd have done it. But yeah, guys used to just literally fill their shoes with segs. And then they would hold the back end of the bus, and the bus would drag them along, and they would be basically skidding along the road on the with sparks flying out. And the more segs you had, the more sparks you made. Makes sense.
Like
doesn't
skis
it?
on a snowmobile.
That's right.
On pavement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were cool.
Sometimes they're on the back of a bike as well. If
Get
you
the
sat on the back
welder
of the
out.
bike.
You just get the welder out and build up, metal on it. That would work.
Yeah, that's a really heavy industrial approach, but I quite like it. Yeah, absolutely. Big metal boots. They were great. They were fun.
Do you remember that also they used to have Wayfinder shoes that had the soles used to have animal paw prints on, so you knew. So you had to take your shoe off. So if you saw a paw print, to see what the bleeding animal was. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I wonder who
do.
thought that one up.
I
And
don't know.
what kids used to do is put Blakey's into the heels of them, and then sit on your mate's bike. And then as you're cycling along, you just put your feet, your heels down, and you get sparks flying out the back of the bike. If you went downhill, of course. It's silly little things. Yes, used to do.
But this is how we had fun back then. Oh, you tell the children of this today. They won't believe you. No, it was just sweet, innocent, crazy, dangerous fun. It was good. The other shoe I remember as well was if you took it off, there was a compass in the heel. Do you remember that?
That's it. That was a wayfinder. That was a wayfinder, wasn't it?
It might. I don't know.
Hence the name.
Yeah, hence the name.
Yeah.
So instead of mobile phones, we
Wayfinders,
used
yeah.
compasses and ordnance survey maps to find
you
out
had to
way
take
to
your shoe off.
meetings. You had to take your bloody shoe off. So you couldn't get anywhere because you're hopping around trying to find out what the bloody hell's direction am I supposed to go in. That's great.
You think of the logic. You see, animal paw prints will form in, excuse my language, mud or shit. So you had to take your shoe off where there's mud and shit to look at the sole of the shoe to see what animal track it is.
Yeah.
I mean, what genius dreamt that one up? Do you think this is why Britain lost the empire?
I don't know.
I think that was it. I think
some whiz kid
that's
in
one
the
of the
marketing
reasons.
department. Yeah, it was just to appeal to children. It was to appeal to children. And there was a great battle at school over which footwear you wore, particularly when you were an early teenager. It was either the Doc Marten boot in cherry red, although this was frowned upon severely by the teachers at our school, so people ended up getting the black Doc Marten boots. I ended up getting the black Doc Marten shoes, and I've still got a pair to this day, not the ones from all that time ago. I bought them subsequently. They're the shoes that supposedly policemen used to wear. I don't know if they still wear them. They probably go around in ballet shoes now or something like that. I don't know what they wear, but Doc Marten's the most amazing shoe. You can just wear. They're so comfortable. So there was that. But the main competition was between the Doc Marten, cherry red, by the Bother boys that went to school, and the Royals. Do you remember those? Which were a men's brogue, and they were called Royals. All leather. Those are the ones. The Royals are the ones that all the Blakeys were hammered into. The Segs. Yeah. Fantastic. I've obviously.
But modern day though, who's got a pair of Altbergs? Now they're made in Yorkshire, would you believe? Altbergs, and the army use them. They're bloody good boots. Yeah.
Bloody.
Have you heard of Altbergs?
Yeah.
Bloody good boots, you know. Yes.
I've obviously got
but
the
you can't
title
put
of tonight's
blazers on
show
them.
wrong, Eric, because it should have been called A Load of Old Cobblers, really, because we just talked about shoes
Yes.
really, for most of it. Although I've quite enjoyed myself.
Well, we have a couple American brands that kind of are popular. Danner is one where they still make boots that are made in America and shoes. And then the other closer to me is Red Wing in Red Wing, Minnesota. They
Right.
make leather shoes and mining shoes, that kind of thing, because there's a lot of mining and forestry type stuff. So they're more work boot type stuff than dressy. I think the dressy stuff comes from Europe, from your neck of the woods or Italy, places like that it's more common.
Well, we're very dressy here. We're very stylish here. You're quite stylish, aren't you, Eric?
We
Eric's
don't have
stylish.
that.
Don't you?
We lost it somewhere.
Well, maybe you did. Yeah, I mean, all those, I know we talk about trousers quite a bit, and they're pretty important. And I've got some, actually, I'm lying. I haven't got trousers. I've got my very long shorts on, and my knees are slightly cold because of that Japanese chap that's floating around in the air, nipping away a bit. But my son who went to Italy, I've mentioned this before, was just wants to go and move there because he said, where did he go? He went to Turin or Torino, depending on, how you say it. And said that everybody's just dressed so well. I said, yeah, it does raise the tempo and the sort of feeling of life. It really does. So the Italians are pretty good at that stuff, and top hat to them, unless you're a gangster, in which case they tend to go a bit overboard, I think, and always look a bit lurid. But that's me, being slightly reserved and everything. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of old cobblers to start it all off. Anyway, the mystery of the missing free speech. So has anybody found it? I'm, of course, referencing the UK. You guys are still luxuriating in being able to say whatever you want over there in America. But we're getting to the point now where we can barely exist. And one of the things that just sort of prompted me to throw this in, because the titles, of course, is just a guide. We end up going all over the place in these shows, which is as it should be, is Gab. Gab.com, which I think I've had an account at Gab, even though I don't heavily use it. I do put a notice up for this show all the time, and anybody that's heard the show from that and has liked those posts. Hats off to you. Thank you very much for that, even though it's going to be very difficult now for any sort of British types to get in there, because if you go to gab.com from jolly old England right now, you get this. It's not too long. It says, access restricted by provider, i.e. Gab have turned it off. And they write as follows. They say, after receiving yet another demand from the UK's speech police, Ofcom, and that's short for the Office of Communism as far as I'm concerned. It's supposed to be the Office of Communications or something. But Torba goes on, I'm assuming he wrote this, Gab has made the decision to block the entire United Kingdom from accessing our website. The latest email from Ofcom ordered us to disclose information about our users and operations. We know where this leads. Compelled censorship and British citizens thrown in jail for hate speech, that old thing. We refuse to comply with this tyranny. Jolly good, you do right. Gab is an American company with zero presence in the UK. Well, there's me and there's a few others. Ofcom
And me.
And Eric, yeah. Ofcom's demands have no legal force here. Jolly good. Well, they really don't need to have any legal force here too, but at the moment we've got to endure this nonsense. To enforce anything in the United States, they'd need to go through a mutual legal assistance treaty request. Ooh, I quite like the idea of one of those. Or letters rogatory. No US court is going to enforce a foreign censorship regime. The First Amendment forbids it. Good. We don't have one of those yet, but we maybe ought to draft one up, at least for Sussex, where I live, and do it on a county-by-county basis. He goes on, it says, Ofcom will likely try to make an example of us anyway. Do you think? Probably they will. That's because the UK's Online Safety Act isn't about protecting children, it's about suppressing dissent. Correct. They're welcome to try. The idea that a British regulator, I hate all this kind of stuff. These are the fifth column inside Britain that are masquerading as Britons. The idea that a British regulator can pressure a US company that's IP blocking the entire UK is as farcical as it is futile indeed. If anything, it proves our point. Censorship does not work. It only reveals the truth about the censors. Don't it just? We proudly join platforms like BitChute, who've also just had to go down the bin and down this same route, in boycotting the United Kingdom. American companies should follow suit. The power of the UK's Parliament ends where the First Amendment begins. Jolly good. The only way to vote against the tyranny of the UK's present regime is to walk away from it, refuse to comply, and take refuge under the impervious shelter of the First Amendment. Good for you if you can. We're not in that position just yet, if ever. The UK's rulers want their people kept in the dark, which we all are, like mushrooms. Let them see how long the public tolerates it as their internet vanishes one website at a time. My slightly jaded view is that the public, of course, the vast majority of the public here in the UK don't go to Gab and will possibly be terrified about seeing people exercising their free speech, although there's a growing number that aren't. I think what Torba's done has been fantastic, to be quite honest. And the really weird thing is I was even toying with the idea, foolishly, my timing's absolutely appalling, with getting sort of a permanent subscription there or even a lifetime membership to support it. Not that I'm loaded or anything. It's about $500 for a lifetime thing, but it's just he's just says a lot of good things. I wouldn't say I agree with him on everything, but the fact that they've knocked themselves out to put this together is brilliant. And I think it's early days with all of this kind of nonsense. We're going to have to see what happens. I did hear, where was this? I might even be able to play it, although it's a bit worrisome. Let's see if we can. All right, look, I'm just going to play a minute or so of Alex Jones. Anybody heard of Alex Jones? I'm not a fan, but somebody sent me this over earlier today. And it actually kind of indirectly addresses this. I'll just play a minute of this. Listen to this.
No free trade with the U.S. without free speech. Trump's been officially saying this, but now Starmer said he's been given the direct in-writing communiques that if you keep arresting people for speech and you keep your transgender stuff targeting kids, we're going to put bigger tariffs on you. And people, that's what tariffs have always been about, is also political power. You're like, well, wait, we're meddling in them. No, the globalists have taken over Europe and the UK and Australia, New Zealand, Canada. They're meddling in our affairs. Their lawsuits and regulations and attacks, on X and you name it. And I learned like 8 years ago, NATO was coordinating the plans for censorship of Americans and myself, and my name was listed in official NATO meetings. Because again, our money can be sent over there, and then they don't have to follow our laws, and then they use it domestically to attack us. So, and that's just some of the good Trump's doing. His people really get it.
Ugh. And he goes on a bit more, which I could play, but I'm not going to. Yeah, tariffs. Well, let's see. Do you remember that Starmer was over there weaseling around like the dope that he is, saying that he's very proud of our free speech traditions? Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I just thought we'd have a pregnant pause then, and you all helped me out with that. That was good.
I'm busy. I'm looking up what Ofcom is. I'm trying to get an idea of what you're dealing with there. What is it? The Office of Communications.
Yeah, it's like that agency in 1984.
Yeah, broadcast, internet, telecommunications, and postal industries.
Yes,
So even your mail.
They're the regulators of the transmission of thought and ideas. That's what they are.
That's why it's so expensive to send you anything. I mean, I was going to send. I sent some ear tips for headphones, little earbud headphones to Eric.
Yeah.
And I went to the mail to send them to him. I bought a padded envelope, and because it was over a 1/4 inch thick, the price went from $2 to $40. Just because it was over a 1/4 inch thick, the envelope.
Whoa.
It's ridiculous, and there was no in between.
No.
Did you try media mail?
Well, media mail, yeah, I could do it like that, but then I'd have to say that what I'm sending is media, which wouldn't be true technically, but.
No. Just go to the thrift store, buy yourself a 25-cent paperback book, and stick it in a box.
Right, cut holes for the.
Yeah,
for the
listen to
contraband.
Naughty Paul. Naughty Paul knows how to deal with this.
Of course, I'm an American. You give us any challenge, and we'll figure out a way to overcome it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Still, I didn't know that about Gab. I knew that about BitChute.
But you can get around the censors, and you can get around the censors by using a VPN. And
Da, da, da. You can.
And
Yep.
I'm on BitChute. I have a BitChute channel, and I'm still using it, even though it's censored. And I've actually found, we was talking about this, was it the other day, Patrick, wasn't we? And with Brave in the UK, you have to pay for the VPN. I don't know if it's a free in the States.
No, it's not free. Not for Brave.
Oh. But
No.
you see, I'm very tight-fisted. You notice I take large steps to save my shoe leather and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found one, Urban VPN, and that's totally free. Proton, yes, okay, that's free, but I found Urban is
there
better.
There must be a VPN lobby in your parliament that's making out like bandits right now.
Maybe.
Well-
I guess. Not really looked into it. I'll tell you, if you use
So
Opera,
you still use Gab.
if you use Opera
Sorry.
browser, everybody, if you're a real tightwad like me, I mean, I've got several browsers. I do use Brave. I use Opera. I also want...
Yandex.
I don't use Yandex. No, I also have a sort of independent effort called Flash Peak Slimjet. How about that? That's a mouthful, isn't it? But it's pretty good. It's all based on Chrome. However, Opera comes with its own free built-in VPN, Eric. How
Well, I
about that?
tried that. It didn't work on my computer, so I thought,
Try
sod it.
Yandex has a VPN function too. Oh,
Does
I've
it?
never. Yeah, you try that. Perhaps
Because
they have something.
The other thing
Those
I've noticed,
Russians.
I was loading up some, what I did on Monday onto BitChute, and I chose the United States, but it was really slow, so I changed it to the Netherlands, and it's much quicker. So it's a little tip: find a place near United Kingdom because it'll be a little bit quicker, I suppose. So, and it was a lot quicker. So the Netherlands is what. But what I like about it is on YouTube you get Dutch adverts. Yeah, they're as crap as what we get.
They're probably selling quite a bit of cheese, aren't they, Eric? I bet there's, being Dutch, there'll be a lot of cheese advertising. So, well, on Opera, and this is to all tightwad Englishmen, I probably didn't need to use the word tightwad. It probably includes all of us. You can choose from the Americas, which I do. That gets you straight into Gab. So this is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Asia and Europe. And Europe, I think, is Dutch. I think they have a Dutch one there. So I'm just letting you know there'll be a freebie solution. I mean, you know, I don't really need one all the time. But if you want to go to Gab, so be it. They may see that there isn't such a drop in their traffic from the UK anyway. I don't know. But I would have thought if you actually look at the profile of Gab users, they are by definition people who have sought out free speech and a free speech platform, and therefore are not likely to be completely ignorant about VPNs and things like that. So if they all start using Opera, and that's one of the things he should have said in his post, start using Opera or a browser that comes with a free VPN and you can get in easy peasy. That would be okay. And there we go. But I'm reassured that Ofcom are trying to regulate me and look after me. You too, Eric, I imagine. It's nice. I feel safer now, don't you?
By setting up stumbling blocks for you.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'll tell you something. I close the curtains and make sure nobody's watching. Don't tell anybody between you and I, Paul, and the two Pauls and Patrick. So don't tell anybody else. I watched RT live because Russia Today is actually banned in this country. But with the VPN, you can actually see it. So I wonder if the boys are going to be coming round tomorrow to arrest me for that.
Well, there might be. They've probably set up a new VPN police division, haven't they? Hello. We're the virtual police network. We're the VPN looking at the virtual private networks. Are you? Yeah, that kind of stuff.
We have a similar thing, though. If you're in America right now and you go to presstv.com, it will say this website has been seized. It's been seized by the Department of Justice and the Department of Commerce.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
And they'll give you the warrant issue and the U.S. code and all that, where it says the Office of Export Enforcement and Federal Bureau of Investigation, so FBI, seized it. And that's the main, the RT equivalent for Iran is Press TV. And
right.
I know a few people that I've talked to that have been regulars on the Press TV that, that happened, I think, under Trump back when he was president the first time round. And they sit and talk about free speech and they take away people's free speech like that, getting a second opinion. And yet at the same time, they allow just the most ridiculous pornography on the planet that you can imagine. Little children can access it anywhere, on a computer, on a phone, tablet, and there's nothing they do about that. Yet they're going to protect us from getting information from another country that they don't like, they don't agree with, whoever they are, you know who they might be, but
I have no idea.
It's sick. It's sick. When you think about it morally, it's absolutely an outrage.
It is. It is. And of course, we've been exposed to it for so long that we're not morally outraged, or not even just generally cross. I guess people like us are a bit cross, but we find ways around it to just sort of, okay, you put that hurdle there, well, we'll do that. Just a lot of people don't. But then, as I said, those people that don't are not really in this space fully yet anyway, if you know what I mean. If you get into this space, there's so much information and help going around from people to actually overcome these silly hurdles that they put up. But it's the mere fact that they feel that they have to do it. But there's nothing new. There's nothing. I mean, when they first set up the Royal Mail over here, I can't remember which king it was under. Whenever it kicked off, they had an intermediary sorting office that they didn't let anybody know about. And so as the letters were all flying around London, so when would it have been? 1600s? Maybe it's older than that. I don't know. So there you go. There's a date. I don't know. If anybody knows when the Royal Mail started, stick it in the Rumble chat, will you, and let us know. Put me out of my misery and find out what king it was. But the king set up a team and they steamed open all the letters and read them. It's just non-stop. They might be thinking and writing things that I don't like. Well, possibly, yes. It's called living in a free country, supposedly. Well, we don't want any of that. It's going to actually bugger things up. No, steam all the envelopes over, then reseal them and pass them on and let me know about any really super naughty ones. So, there you go. From the minute of the Postal Service beginning, they were pilfering the mail. Absolutely. Paul, you were about to say something before I blathered on.
I know exactly what it is.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I think we do. Yes, we do.
Actually, I think we haven't even touched on the depths of depravity that they have plunged the world into. Because if you look at the whole COVID thing and the whole jab and 2 weeks to flatten the curve that turned into 2 or 3 months, and everybody locked up, sequestered in their houses. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. And then, guess what? That right about the same time, I was getting reports that there was a flood of incest porn that was just absolutely going bananas.
A flood of what? A flood of what?
Incest porn.
Oh, God.
So here's these families that are all locked up. They can't communicate with anybody but each other. And now there's these evil bastards planting the seeds. Oh, well, you don't need to go out on a date. Just have a date at home. Just the depths of depravity. You cannot.
They did the same in Gaza.
How deep these guys are.
They did the same in Gaza. The IDF took over the television stations, and that's what they did. They brought back in 2013. They broadcast pornography to demoralize the people. They'd have nothing to get any news about what was going on outside their doors. That's all it. So yeah, it's definitely a weapon of war, and censoring like this is also a weapon because they don't want people questioning the official narrative coming out of the main broadcast units of ABC, NBC, CBS, NPR, BBC, same.
NPR? Oh, National Propaganda Radio. That one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you're referring to.
I mean, maybe I'm being a bit optimistic, but I tend to think that they're kind of, closing the gate after the horse has bolted type thing. I think it's
true.
Really, but they're like a leviathan. They're like a real dinosaur. It takes an awful long time for messages to ripple through their organizations and for things to happen. They go, well, we're going to do this, and 3 years later it starts to happen. But it generally always does happen, this sort of tightening up of things. And this thing with Ofcom is ridiculous. But of course, it's, as we've mentioned before, the parallels are everywhere in history. And this is very similar to what happened 100 years ago in Russia with a kind of policing of communication, the criminalization of certain words and sentences. And, of course, we've had the hurty feelings culture built up. You can't hurt people's feelings, which, of course, you can, even when you're not trying to. Even when you don't actually mean it, you can do it because someone can just say that you did. That kind of stuff. So anyway, Ofcom are obviously throwing their weight around and really enjoying it. Although I don't know who the head of Ofcom is, but they do stick their nose in. They regulate everything. And it's this kind of, what would you call it? Soft. Yeah, it's a soft kill of human energy. And the soft kill is the most devastating. Sorry, Patrick.
Michael Grade is the chairman of Ofcom. Chief executive is Melanie Dawes.
Oh, Michael Grade, the guy that used to head up Channel 4, I think, wasn't he? Eric, I think he was.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
88 to 97.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Well, Channel 4 is just another sort of globalist dunghole of programming. It's always full of all that sort of lefty liberal, hurty, everybody, let's pursue equality nonsense. It's just commie, really. But
so is Channel 5.
Yeah.
But the thing with this VPN, I actually believe that censorship always shoots itself in the foot because it's the last bastion of tyrants, because it makes people, for example, if you had a sign up saying, do not look behind this door, most people would look behind a door to see what's behind there because people are intrigued. That's human nature, to be intrigued by something. So, for example, you put to children, do not walk on the grass. They will walk on the grass. The best thing to say is walk on the grass, and they won't walk on the grass. Keep off the footpath, and they'll walk on the footpath. That's human nature. Mm-hmm. So,
I think there's a case though to be made for censorship when it comes to pornography because
I 100% agree with you.
There's absolutely nothing being done to censor it. And
I agree with you, Paul, Patrick, because there should be censorship with children. Yes, I 100% agree with that.
I would say even adults, but pornography.
I think it should be punishable by capital punishment. I think you should be hung, drawn, and quartered. I think we should go really draconian with this. It'd be such fun.
What about the ultimate punishment? Being locked in a room and listening to a Tony Blair speech for an hour.
Now you've just led me in because you were just talking about tyrants as well, and we can't listen to him for an hour. I've got this clip, courtesy, someone sent it through onto I'm sorry, because it's forwarded from Off-Grid Island within Telegram. But this is Tony.
Can I do 1 point first?
You do one point first before we go over to the beautiful Tony. Blech. Go on, yes, please, Paul.
One point first as far as VPN. Okay, the way I consider VPNs is much the same way that I configure, or that I concern myself with the free lunch. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, the only free ride is the rotation of the Earth, and the flat earthers screwed that up. Now, if you are going for a free VPN and you want utter secrecy and security, I don't think you're going to find it, because that VPN service has to monetize itself somehow. It has to pay the bills somehow.
Statistics, commercial statistics to companies, like what's popular, what's not. Of course, it's like the cookies
and the government.
They trade those.
Right.
But they want to find out who's looking at things that are naughty. Like, for example, why can't we see Russia Today? But if you go over to the channel, you go to France or the Netherlands, you can see it. So what's the difference? I just don't get it.
What I'm saying is VPNs, some VPNs actually log where you go and what you do. They don't capture your data, but they do log where you go. And that information is out there and can be turned over to whoever asks for it. So if you're looking for a VPN, find one that's a few bucks and read their terms of service so you know what to expect. That's my only point.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I don't know what difference, Paul, though, ultimately is between going straight through your normal ISP because they're fully monitored, or going through a VPN. So I'm not overly concerned about it. I mean, for example, the one in Opera is obviously funded by Opera's other activities. They don't really care. It's easy for them to sling it together. It comes inbuilt into the browser. And Opera, of course, started off as a Scandinavian thing, but I believe now it is owned by the Chinese, I think.
I think it was Norwegian.
Yeah.
The VPN can be code written into the browser. Now that takes care of the code, but that VPN is going to log you onto a secure channel and a VPN server somewhere. That server is going to have bandwidth requirements. It's going to have, you know how much servers that route traffic cost. So there is a hard cost involved in doing that. And over and above, let's say they write a browser. There's the Opera browser. They have research development. They write the code. They present the code to the internet so people can download it. That browser is going to go directly from your computer to whatever website you want to see. Opera is completely out of it. But now if Opera adds a VPN, they're taking every Opera user and funneling their traffic through the Opera servers and then out to the internet. It completely changes their technological requirements as far as bandwidth and internet pipe. Completely changes. So it's not something that they can easily implement and add with minimal cost.
No. But Paul, for me, it's free, you see. And I'm English. I've got short arms and deep pockets. So there is that. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind paying for a VPN, but if I paid for one, I wouldn't trust that anymore, to be quite honest. I mean, Proton Mail is touted as a really strong thing, and it might be up to a point, but I know that most of the traffic that goes in and out of Proton goes through Tel Aviv. So, I run my own mail servers because I'm a maniac, right? But they're no more safer than anything else. And you find that if you run your own mail servers, you often can't get mail through because actually it's Microsoft say, this server's not approved by us because we're really caring for everybody else. And of course, what we're talking about here is the age-old protection racket, which is what government is and what healthcare is. It's a protection racket. Oh, you could die from this. You need a government to protect you from it. Therefore, we're going to restrict your freedom so we can care after you more fully by you not seeing this naughty information that might get you thinking things that could ultimately just lead to misery anyway. So why don't we take care of it? I didn't invite you into the conversation. I don't want to contract with you. I think there are ways through with this. This sort of sovereign individual stuff is picking up speed and possibly will. But I've left out the wonderful Tony Blair, and I'd like to get back to him because I know how everybody's waiting with bated breath to hear Tony say something.
And this discussion could not be more relevant.
So let me just let me just get this clip lined up. Here we go. I'm not going to play all of it because it's 3 minutes and 26 seconds, and I would probably need to take some sort of, I don't know, thing to calm down. But this is just also gives you the mindset again. I know we're kind of covering the same thing, but it's worth doing it. Here's Tony Blair having a chat.
The Times Commission has done important work highlighting the role of digital innovation in shaping the future of governance and public services, and this discussion could not be more relevant. The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable.
Ha!
It will allow us to judge who has a right to be in our country and who doesn't, and so solves one of the major challenges of immigration. Facial recognition can now spot suspects in real time from live video, tracking organized criminals at borders, in public spaces, even helping find missing people. In London, live facial recognition led to 360 arrests by the Met Police between January and October 2024.
That's enough. Anyway, it's all guff. I mean, we could lead to the arrest of 600 people immediately without facial recognition. Just send the Rozzers up to the Houses of Parliament. Why don't you just arrest them? Or how about everybody in the City of London? Don't need facial recognition for that. Of course, they are trotting out all this stuff as if we can't live without it. But as we know, this is building the fence around the herd to, control us for our own well-being, of course. So I know none of that was new to any of you, and probably none of it new to most of the listeners. But that's Tony Blair, everybody. One of the most wretched individuals ever to supposedly occupy number 10. Just an absolute oaf, really, and a complete toady to the money power. So there we go. So we've all got this to look forward to. And I had there was another article that came through here on Zero Hedge, which is in line with what old Manure for Brains was just talking about. UK MPs call for digital identity to tackle illegal immigration. Why don't you tackle it, you lazy, stupid, traitorous bar stewards? That's really the answer, isn't it? Why don't you actually do your job? Oh, because their job is plunging and plundering our pockets. I'll just read a bit of this. This is by Tyler Durden. Of course, not a real name. That's a character from that film Fight Club, but he's written for years, I think, on whoever he is, Zero Hedge. It turns out that the solution to illegal immigration, you'd all be pleased to know, is instituting a nationwide system of digital identity. Well, of course, issued to every baby at birth, hurrah, and containing all your social, education, financial, medical, and employment information. Well, that won't be misused, will it? At least according to the 40 or so Labour MPs who co-signed an open letter calling for such a system. That's because these 40 Labour MPs are not very bright. Of course, that digital ID could solve the immigration problem, should come as no surprise. After all, it can solve every problem. Hurrah! Yes, it can. Everything's going to work now. It can make sure our elections aren't rigged. Really? It can protect our children on the internet. It can prevent the spread of disease. It can lower crime. It can tackle truancy and benefit fraud. It can It can eliminate government inefficiency. It's just good for the economy too. And he writes, yay! So, gosh, I can't wait, everybody. Everybody keen for this? This is going to work. This is going to go so well. I can't see any possibilities of it going bad. It's sad. It's sad that this is what they think. It really is very, very sad. Warren Aparther writes, Blair is a twat. It's a bit harsh, isn't it, Warren? Although I completely agree. I'm being slightly, and all that. Anyway, Eric, do you like Tony Blair? Do you like his brilliant ideas? Do you think the idea of a digital ID is going to really help us and really improve free speech? What do you think?
Well, let's put it this way. Over the last 80 years or so, what has government ever done that has been in our favour? I can't think of anything. Can you? There's nothing. Just think.
Didn't they once reduce the price of ice cream when I was about 9? Or was that just that my auntie started buying loads of it? I am hard pressed, I have to admit.
Yes. It is difficult, isn't it? Yes, because it's like we was talking about earlier. I'm thinking of doing a a Churchill speech where he says the truth of what's going to happen 80 years ago. Because when you think about it, every government has worked against the people. They've committed terrible treason. And when you look at Tony Blair, a complete traitor, the man, absolute traitor. I think he's soulless. He hasn't got a soul. I don't think Starmer has either. They're just like empty vessels. That's my feeling.
Well, they're controlled, aren't they? All of them. Every last one, including, I would say, Putin. They just have, as Shakespeare said, the world is a stage, we're all actors. They've got their lines. Their lines apparently are much more important because they're central figures in central casting in the movie called Life on Planet Earth. And they rock up and say all this stuff. I mean, it's, in a way, I'm kind of helping them by talking about them right now, or we are. I'm aware of this, is that you have to pay some attention to it, but it has become, it's sort of overwhelmed the space. It's why, over the previous 2 weeks, talking about the work of Belloc and Chesterton is kind of more up my street, even though I know it has less sort of dramatic appeal. I'm fully aware of that. People are not really, it's not as enticing to talk about the actual solutions, because it's also slightly depressing when you realise that they've been implemented for a short time, have often been spectacularly successful, and then get squashed and crushed by the same force that's in charge right now. Thinking about how that can be done without it happening to the people that do it occupies far too much of my time on my walks up and down the beach. But I'd rather spend my time thinking about those sorts of things than this. But yes, it's quite a challenge, all of this kind of stuff. Obviously, the development of alternative information networks is going to get more and more difficult. I know that if we go back, say, onto internet usage, say 15 years ago, 2010, 2015, everybody was very confident, couldn't believe, as it were, that we got all this space and we were running around saying all these things and all this information was coming up. What they've done very slowly, not because they're slow, but because, well, they are slow, but not that they don't intend to be slow. It's just that as a system, they're a behemoth. And it just takes a long time for things to work through that system. The problem is that when they've worked through it, they become like concrete. And this is why you can't communicate with anybody over on that side, because by now it's their internal operating system that we're right and all this kind of stuff. And you've got to do this because it's the law of the land and it's for the good of everybody. And people have not spent enough time, or barely any time at all, thinking about the actual consequences of all of this stuff. But here we are, our little sort of trooping along, one of many troops here on the internet doing just that. So we must keep going with all this kind of stuff.
This opens up an opportunity. If you think about it, all of those people who now can't go to Gab, can't go to BitChute, where are they going to go? They got to go somewhere. There's never a vacuum. So
no.
It does present an opportunity to people like us who have something alternative to even Gab or BitChute. Going, at least something with the radio stations that we got going and this format and going other places.
Yeah, it does.
It creates something that we can then get a new audience, potentially. But it also is a hindrance, because then down the road you get big enough, they'll come after us for doing wrong think and double wrong think.
But I'm quite nice, Patrick. You mean they'll even come after me?
They might.
But they won't possibly go after Eric, would they? They'd never even find their way to the entrance hall.
Well, as long as we
Hall.
stay
It's such a
obscure
maze
enough.
before you get there. It's almost impossible to find, isn't it, Eric? They'd never get to Fockham
That's
Hall.
right,
It's
yes.
impossible. Yeah.
Yes. As I said, and also they'd need a visa to get in because it's a separate country. So they won't be able to get in. I said that to the TV man, licensing man. I said, when he knocks at my door, I said, yes, you can come in, providing you can, it's a visa. What you're about? I said, a visa, it's £1,800, and we might sort of issue it or we might not.
Otherwise they have to contend with the border guard.
Precisely.
I think this area, Eric, that you talk about, like visas, passports, for some weird reason, I've been thinking about them recently. These sorts of things, the bits of official tut that bind you into all their systems. I mean, yeah, me too. But why don't we just create our own then? Why don't we have a people's birth certificate office? And they say, no, I don't have my birth certificate with you. I
see
think there
them
is a
as
way of
parallel-
writing them on. So I have it with my pals down the pub. It's called the pub's birth certificate system. And
Well, Paul, this is
yeah.
kind of a parallel to the baptism. It creates, you're counted. It's a new birth. You're
Yeah.
considered a member of, the nation of God, so to speak.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, I don't know if it parallels the right word, but they're kind of parroting it and using it to the detriment of people rather than lifting them up to a higher moral standard. I think that's the goal anyway. Like Tony Blair was saying, well, we're gonna make sure that we got the people we want in this country, and the people we don't want, we'll expel them. Well, what are they gonna do with the people that they don't like? They're gonna do what they do in other countries, go to war with them, because if they're willing to do it there, they're gonna do it here.
Yes.
in their own country.
Well, the numbers he trotted
matter
out,
of time.
Patrick, as well, are lame. 360 people have been arrested. More migrants come in courtesy of being augmented into the country by the government every day than that. What's the point? It's just ludicrous. Yeah. It's just...
Unless it's just a PR stunt. And
Of course
they're really
I
impotent in
think
what
you
they're
might
doing.
have hit the nail on the head there. It's a PR stunt. It's a bit of the old fear-mongering. I say, we'd be able to arrest this man if you all got... If you're all on the electronic ID system. Oh, jolly good. Let's have a bit of that. No, I'm serious. I think, why don't we just, Eric, you're talking about a visa. We just need to get into, maybe we just get into all this clobber. I think this, what's the word? Soft kill. I think this is really, it could well turn out that soft kill is the big arena that we can really work in and distress them completely so that they get demoralized. Soft kill is where you just wear someone out slowly over a long period of time by making things go slightly wrong. It's like websites going down for no explicable reason, although there usually is one. We tend to get slightly over paranoid about that and think we're being hacked all the time. But it's stuff like that, like they just gently interfere with things. Not so much that they destroy you, but they do sort of wear out your energy for actually creating something vital. You get all these sort of secondary and tertiary level problems which turn out to be the problems. Like, for example, in modern living, dealing with all the bills and paperwork. Why is AI not being used to just sort all that out? It's a nonsense in many ways, but it's probably a hangover from all the legal structures that used to exist when we had some power. So I'm quite into the idea of forming these agencies or these institutions, but they don't have to do anything to start off with. People go, how would we run our own bank? We wouldn't. We just say we've got one. It's the words that count. It's the idea getting transmitted. I know this sounds fey, but I don't think it is. People get allied to sort of institutions in their head, and you can say certain words to them, and it suddenly all pops up. In the realm of money, people are going to say, well, how am I going to spend this money? You don't have to do that right now. Just chill with you. Why don't you just get an account at the People's Bank and build these things up? I'd like a People's Visa, really. I think I'll have one for Albion. We'll call it Albion with Albion visas. And I want my own passport office and organisation. I'm going to issue my own. Who says that you get to have the right over where I go? I don't. And I know it's to actually sort of engage them and to just generally piss them off a bit. Maybe we can find a way of soft killing their efforts and energies and all this kind of stuff. The main problem we still face is not that people don't know what their problem is that there's still insufficient number of us. And finding a jolly way to rope more people over to this side is still, I think, a major part of what we should be involved with. And of course we are, to some degree. We're exactly that. What time is it? Look at this. It's come to the top of the hour. Somebody foolishly suggested that we should play some Bernard Cribbins. So we're going to. This is very short. It's only 2 minutes long. So we're going to play a little 2 minutes thing and then a bit of station ID, and we'll be back in the second hour. You're listening to Paul English Live here at WBN 324, also going out over Rumble and YouTube, who still like me. But then the show is relatively civilized, so why wouldn't they like all of us? We're all such lovely chaps. We're also on Radio Soapbox as well. Here's Bernard Cribbins. With His Hole in the Ground, which most of us possibly feel we're actually living in right now. And we'll be back after this little tune.
digging his hole in the ground, so big and sort of round it was, and there was I, digging it deep. It was flat at the bottom and the sides were steep. When along comes this bloke in a bowler, which he lifted and scratched his head. Whoa, he looked down the old poor demented soul and he said, do you mind if I make a suggestion? Don't dig it there, dig it elsewhere. You're digging it round and it ought to be square. The shape of it's wrong, it's much too long, and you can't put a hole where a hole don't belong. I ask, what a liberty, eh? Nearly bashed him right in the bowler. Well, there was I, stood in me shoveling earth. For all that I was worth I was, and there was him, standing up there so grand and official with his nose in the air. So I gave him a look sort of sideways and I leaned on me shovel and sighed. Whoa, I lit me a fag and having took a drag I replied, I just couldn't bear to dig it elsewhere. I'm digging it round cause I don't want it square. And if you disagree, it doesn't bother me. That's the place where the hole's gonna be. Well, there we were discussing this hole in the ground, so big and sort of round it was, it's not there now. The ground's all flat and beneath it is the bloke in the bowler hat. And that's that.
Attention all listeners. Are you seeking uninterrupted access to WBN 324 Talk Radio despite incoming censorship hurdles? Well, it's a breeze. Just grab and download Opera Browser, then type in WBN324.zil. And stay tuned for unfiltered discussions around the clock. That's WBN324.zil.
The views, opinions and content of the show hosts and their guests appearing on the World Broadcasting Network are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of its owners, partners and other hosts or this network. Thank you for listening to WBN 324 Talk Radio.
Indeed, do. And that was Bernard Cribbins just then with The Hole in the Ground. And this is Bernard Cribbins again. Yeah, we're going Cribbins bonkers tonight with Right Said Fred. And we'll be back talking again like human beings after this one.
Right said Fred, both of us together, one each end and steady as we go. Tried to shift it, couldn't even lift it, we was getting nowhere. And so we had a cup of tea and right said Fred, give a shout for Charlie. Up comes Charlie from the floor below. After straining, even and complaining, we was getting nowhere. And so we had a cup of tea and Charlie had a think and he thought we ought to take off all the handles and the things what held the candles. But it did no good, well I never thought it would. All right, said Fred, have to take the feet off to get them feet off, wouldn't take a mo. Took its feet off, even took the seat off, should have got us somewhere, but no. So Fred said, let's have another cup of tea, and we said, righto. All right, said Fred, have to take the door off, need more space to shift the so-and-so. Had bad twinges, taking off the hinges, and it got us nowhere. And so we had a cup of tea, and right, said Fred, have to take the wall down, that there wall is gonna have to go. Took the wall down, even with it all down, we was getting nowhere. And so we had a cup of tea, and Charlie had a think, and he said, look Fred, I got a sort of feeling, if we remove the ceiling with a rope or two, we could drop the bladder through. All right, said Fred, climbing up a ladder with his crowbar, gave a mighty blow. Was he in trouble? Half a ton of rubble landed on the top of his dome. So Charlie and me had another cup of tea, and then we went home. I said to Charlie, we'll just have to leave it standing on the landing, that's all. You see, the trouble with Fred is he's too hasty. Now, you never get nowhere if you're too hasty.
Yeah. And I went through a whole cup of tea while singing that and gargling at the same time. Shout out to Alvon Kurt for that one. I hope you're all singing along, lads. Alvon Kurt says, I do hope you're all singing along. Well, I was singing in parts, particularly the bit about the tea, Alvon Kurt. And why wouldn't I? That's the good old Bernard Cribbins stuff from the 1960s, who went on to play some kind of silly role in Doctor Who, which we don't want to talk about at all, really. But that's when Bernard was, well, he was just doing great. I love those silly sorts of songs.
Wasn't he in the Carry On films, Eric?
Yeah, he was later on. Okay. He came in later on, I think, in the late 60s.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't he, Eric? Yeah.
Yeah. That's right, yeah. Bernard Cribbins. He's also in The Railway Children. He made his fame in Railway Children in, I think it was 1968, that film.
Oh.
And that was, yes.
I love that film.
I
can't watch it, though. It's very difficult for me to watch because it gets me going. And yes, I have a soft and sensitive side. I think it's a brilliant film, that. It was also my wife's favourite film as well. So
Railway Children, yeah.
So she say, I can't watch it because I'm going to start crying, and if she started crying, I'd start crying. I say, oh, will you stop it? I've got to go and have a cup of tea. So that's what I used to do.
Well, we're obviously looking back on those times with rose-coloured spectacles, but
Good.
I wonder if it was like that in those times. I mean, it might have been, lovely. I mean, you just look at those children up that took pictures of fairies. Was it the Covent somewhere up north?
Yes.
And it fooled everybody. And until in the 1980s, one of the girls, who was a very old lady then, said they were fakes. We cut them out of pictures from out of a book.
It fooled even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes.
Cottingley fairies. That was it?
Yeah,
yes.
The Cottingley fairies.
Yeah.
I think it is a romanticised account of that period, and jolly well good for it too. It makes it all the better, to be quite honest. There's something about steam trains and girls in those long flowing Victorian dresses and all that sort of decorum and sentences spoken correctly and no swearing and no spitting and no tattoos. It's just brilliant. It's called the Railway Children.
About?
Yeah, the Railway Children.
What was it? What was the plot?
They live a well-to-do life in London, and their father is pretty high up in something or other, the government or something. And one night, surprisingly early on, right at the beginning of the film, two policemen from His Majesty's force arrive, knocking on the door, and they want to have a word with him. And it's quite serious, as you can tell from the ashen look that falls upon his face, much to the consternation of the rest of the family, which is his wife, their two daughters, and a young lad. And they are then put upon hard times. It's kind of Dickensian in this, but they can't afford to stay in London because Dad's gone to prison for a couple of years or whatever it is. So the mum, being resilient and rather beautiful all at the same time, which is a really tremendous combination and doesn't happen all the time, but in this film it does, takes them up to Yorkshire. And they move up to Yorkshire, and there happens to be a railway line very near where they live, and they end up in all these sort of very sweet and interesting adventures, like runners that are injured and saving trains and things and all this kind of stuff. And this is a spoiler alert, really, isn't it? But they make connection with a very wealthy gentleman, although you don't know that he's wealthy, on the train, who takes an interest in their father's case, and it all ends up wonderful and fantastic.
Nice.
So, and I think it's a film that strikes into the hearts of daughters with fathers of a certain age. That's what Kath told me, my wife. She said, oh, when he comes back, when Daddy comes back, it's that stuff. And I can see it. It's absolutely, it's mega. It's really good. So it's old-fashioned and full of great virtues in the best possible way. It's a wonderful film. Absolutely wonderful. It's really
family
great
film, isn't it?
It is. It's just fantastic. And of course, when it was being pushed, I was a teenager, so I was too busy out with segs in my shoes, Eric, kicking sparks around to be bothered with any of that girly nonsense. But as I got older and mellowed and drank more red wine, it suddenly appeared to be a much more splendid film than I'd given it credit for. And I've seen it a couple of times, and it's just such a wholesome story. And all the characters, with the exception of a couple, are pretty lovable. And Bernard Cribbins plays the role of this fantastic station master who's slightly out of breath all the time as he's pulling the gates up, and they help him out and do things, and he gives him a clip round the ear and all that kind of English stuff, and it's great. Yeah, it's a fantastic film.
Sounds nice.
It was.
Good plot device too with the railway.
Yeah, well, you can't beat steam engines because you can. I think, like at the end of the film, her father steps out of this sort of, field of steam that's being emitted all over the platform, so she doesn't know whether it's him or not. So you can use that for dramatic effect, and it works. And you want people to use things like that for dramatic effect. Gets the point over so much more emphatically, which it did. So yeah, tremendous stuff. Really brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody earlier today about the railway that used to come through our town and how it developed our town as it is, the village as it is, and how all of these little towns that are spotted throughout the area sprang up because of it.
Yeah.
Most of these places wouldn't even exist as a town if it weren't for the railway that came in, and then they took it away, and now it's like you wish you had it back. And instead of these cars that we have to sit and drive, and we're independent and we're not dependent on the public transport. But I think that public transport would be very nice after having a taste of it.
It used to be fantastic, I think, and I like it back as well. And it doesn't have to go quick. There's all this sort of thing about speed and efficiency, and it's like, really? It's boring. I don't want that. I want mess and sluggardliness. And the whole reason why that culture's built up is that the bank's got to get its money. That's all that is. It's one of the symptoms of living under usury, a pressure all the time for people to behave abnormally over the top, scrambling like mad, competing with everybody else to do these things. It's an agitated so-called civil. Everybody's agitated, literally, and it's not good. It's really, really, it's rubbish, actually. But, we say that every week, don't we? But in slightly different ways to keep it interesting for everybody. But it is. Just tapping back into as well the little things I've been touching on the last 2 weeks, the crisis of civilization, which I've just about finished and which I would recommend again to everybody, and much of Belloc's work and Chesterton's too, but particularly the crisis of civilization and the servile state. I would almost like say you should really all read them, and even Economics for Helen, even though technically it's kind of inaccurate with what's happened in banking. But these are fantastic bits of logical deduction and insight informed by a deep knowledge of history by Belloc in particular. It's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous stuff. You begin to see a world when you're reading it, the world that you should be in. And that, and of which we've had glimpses and even longish periods of living in it. And one of the things, I don't know if I've used this word before, it's a bit of a clunky sort of word, but it's worth anybody looking up a thing called distributism. Distributism is effectively the political and economic philosophy, in pragmatic terms, laid down by Belloc and Chesterton. And it's outstanding. It's outstanding because all of the themes that we've touched upon here ever since the show started and ever since I've got on the air and ever since blah, 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 are addressed by that. So at the center of it, there is property ownership, because without property ownership, you produce, that lovely word, the proletariat. Hello, proles. What is a proletarian? Is someone who's basically reliant upon a wage to survive, hasn't got any property, in simple terms. A renter. He lives at the good grace of the man that he rents things from and can be kicked off at any moment, and therefore his life and the life of his wife is not stable. And therefore this breeds unstable thinking and unstable decision-making and a reliance on a management structure that gets heavier and heavier with each passing generation. So distributism says, and it's in its words, it's a bit of a mouthful, I accept, but that basically the more widely distributed property ownership and wealth is, the higher the quality of the civilization in all regards. And this is true. So I think when I was talking to you earlier, Eric, when we were having a chat this afternoon at some point, one of the old adages about money is, in support of this idea of distributism, is If you have a pile of money all in one place, it stinks to high heaven. But if you spread it around all across the land, like manure, everything grows. And that's the analogy. Money is like manure. You stick it in one place, it stinks. And it causes a greater stink. And then you have to have a police force to regulate the stink. The City of London is the great stink in this country. It stinks to high heaven. You spread the money around, you start to get more dispersed property ownership, and everything starts to settle. Everything grows. And as we've mentioned here before, a couple of months ago when we were referring quite frequently to the year of Jubilee and the forgiveness of all debts, that's in line with that. So all the solutions are known. We're just stuck with a class of people that want it all, in simple terms.
It reminds me, yesterday I had a Bible study and catechism class that I did with my neighbor, and we were talking about Acts chapter 4, where they're describing the early Christians in Jerusalem as being a distributist type setup where everyone gave their property up and it was distributed equally among the poor and the rich alike. And then it even dealt with a married couple who sold their property and decided they'd be clever and only give half of it and declare that was all of what they had and keep some for themselves. Greed, and they end up getting struck dead out of like miraculously struck dead when it's found out that they were lying. And I think there's a lesson to be learned from it because of the greed that we have now of the plutocracy that we have, where it's all about not about your merit, not about your skills, which would be a real aristocracy, but it's more of a plutocracy where it's about who has the most gold, who has the most possessions, who can accumulate the most.
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, we have to sort of, and we rightly should, boil it down to these simple sorts of understandings because they are the ones that lie at the heart of it. There's that painting, I don't know who made it. I bet you're all familiar with it, where there's a feast. Oh, it's that thing, the difference between heaven and hell. All the knives and forks are really, really long. Like, have you seen it? It's a painting. It's really funny. So the knives and the forks are like 3 or 4 feet long. So everybody's trying in hell. Everybody's trying to get their own food off their own plate into their own mouth, and they can't because they've got to hold the knife and fork, and they just can't hold them high enough to even get the food. It's just a complete. So that's hell when you're self-centered, when you're thinking of one's own stuff, and of course, to some degree, you have to do that. Heaven is the next picture. Is what they're doing is they're reaching over to the plate on the opposite side of the table, and they're feeding the person on the other side, and they're feeding them. So it's the difference between self-obsession and cooperation. And I know these are old sort of platitudes, but they need to be out there in the reminder sphere, because all we're going to ever hear from the mainstream media is the culture of greed, really, and sort of excessive, sick levels of it. Like, they've become addicted to behaving that way. It actually doesn't really profit them at all. I don't think, not in any real sense. They're chewing up their own souls whilst they chew up everybody else's, whilst we pay for their mistakes, which are mistakes that they're making in pursuit of a goal that isn't worth achieving. I mean, what's the point of it? It's just pointless. Yes, Paul.
In defense of greed, there's an old saying, he who dies with the most toys wins. Mm-hmm. When in effect that saying is false, because they're still dead.
Wins nothing.
You don't win anything.
And you can't bring it with you.
You can't take it with you.
Stupid.
Yeah.
By the way, Paul, I believe Eric got slingshotted out of our conversation.
He's always legging it. He's gone down the pub again. Eric, what have you done?
Get him back in.
Hello. Yes.
What did you do?
I think I said a naughty word and StreamYard booted me out.
You didn't. I
don't think so.
It's nothing to do with that. I think what you're doing is you're reaching for that beer. You take yourself out so we can't hear you slurping it, and then you forget to bring yourself back in. It's something like that, Eric. You're the only one.
It's funny you should say that.
You're always sloping off to the pub in the middle of the show.
I know.
Outrageous.
It is.
I was the one that was reaching for the cold snack. But seeing as you're talking about heaven and hell, I actually have to share a story.
Please do. Should we sit comfortably? Should we all sit comfortably? I'm sitting comfortably,
yes,
Paul.
comfortably.
Please tell me a story.
sitting
I
comfortably.
love it. I love stories. Go on.
Politician dies, goes to heaven. He meets St. Peter at the door and at the gate. And St. Peter says, well, Chief, we don't get very many politicians up here. We really don't know what to do with you. So hold on just a second. Let me see what the protocol is for this, and I'll be right back. So St. Peter goes away, and then he comes back. And he says, okay, here's what we do. You have to spend one day in hell and one day in heaven. And then you get to decide where you are going to spend eternity. And then we'll figure out what to do with you after that. And the politician says, oh, no. I think I'd be perfectly comfortable spending eternity in heaven. And St. Peter says, well, you don't understand. This is our protocol. This is what we do. So he leads the politician to an elevator, and they get in, the doors close, and down, and then the elevator doors open, and the politician steps out of the elevator in the middle of a golf green. Beautiful blue skies, trees, birds are singing, and off in the distance he sees the clubhouse for the golf course. And he goes over there, and all of his friends are there, and fellow politicians that had passed before him are there. And everybody they're having a great time. They're dancing. They're eating caviar and lobster. They're drinking champagne. And it's just a raucous, fun time. Very enjoyable, very enjoyable. Then all of a sudden, St. Peter shows up because his day is done. And St. Peter takes him to the elevator and up, back to heaven. So they come out and everything is all peaceful and serene. Everybody's moving. All the contented souls are moving from cloud to cloud. And there's harp music playing, and angels are singing praises to the Lord, and everything is just so joyful and so peaceful. It's just a beautiful sight. And St. Peter shows up and says, okay, it's time to make your decision. Where would you like to spend eternity? And the politician says, well, heaven is wonderful. It's very peaceful. It's very serene. The music is beautiful. But I really think I would be better off in hell. I really do. And St. Peter, are you sure? Are you sure? And he says, yes, I believe I am. So they get into the elevator and down. And this time St. Peter's not with him. And the doors open and he steps out. The elevator doors close and disappear. And he finds himself in the middle of this desert wasteland. I mean, there is nothing around but just death, dirt, rocks, and blistering heat and trash all over. And he sees all of his friends, his buddies, his fellow politicians with black trash bags, feverishly trying to pick up the trash that's continuously falling from the heavens. And they cannot get ahead of it. And they're sweating and everything else. And all of a sudden the devil shows up, and the devil steps up next to him and he puts his arms around him and says, welcome back. And that politician looks at the devil. He says, I don't understand. I was here yesterday. It was beautiful. There was a golf green. There was a clubhouse. There was lobster. There was champagne. And the devil gets a sly grin on his face and he says, yesterday we were campaigning. Today you voted.
Spot on. Oh yes, very spot on.
We like that. Don't we like
Yes.
that? That's a nice little tale, Paul.
Well, thank you.
It's a nice tale.
Ronald Reagan said one, didn't he, about a politician that went to heaven, and he went up there the same day as there was a couple of priests, you see, and St. Peter says, right, okay, to the priest, there's your small room where you can, spend your days, and it's just a single room with a bunk bed. And then they show the politician this fantastic house, with limousine and everything. They said, hang on a minute, how comes the priests just get a room with a bunk bed, and I've got this fantastic house? He said, well, you're the first politician we've ever had. And that was a Ronald Reagan joke. It's not a very good one, is it? It's a sort of a slight snigger joke, isn't it? You know?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
not even that.
It's a shorter version of Paul's.
Yeah. Well, there's another quick one. A bus driver and a priest wind up at the pearly gates, and the bus driver is first in line, and St. Peter says, "Oh, we're so happy you're here. Here, let me give you your harp, and let me give you your golden robe, and here's a nice golden tassel for it. Just go in. We have everything all prepared for you. The beautiful home at the far lane on the left, that's yours. You see the one that's glowing? It's got a halo over it. That's the one. That's the one. And we'll see you in a bit." And then the priest comes up, and he says, "Oh, well, welcome." And he gives him a cotton robe, and it gives him just a rope tassel and a pair of bad sandals, whatever. And the priest is going, wait a minute. I've been serving the Lord. I've been preaching for over 30 years. The other guy, he was a bus driver. Why does he get all this stuff and I don't? And St. Peter says, well, we're results oriented here. When you preached, people slept. When he drove, people prayed.
Well,
okay, I'm done.
Well, I don't have a joke for you, but I've got an item for you which moves it possibly into Eric's territory. This is somebody sent this into the Telegram group. Again, I apologize because I'm forwarding it on to myself and stuff. I need to make a note of these things to give you a bit of acknowledgement, so my apologies. This is a post on X, and there's a video with it which I shouldn't play. It's awful, really. You'll understand when I read the story. I'll just read the headline. Man saves a small dog from violent German shepherd by repeatedly sticking his finger up the dog's arse.
It took a week to get the smile off the dog's face. Sorry.
Here's more news from our man on the spot, Ron Savage. Diabolical. The incident took place over the weekend at Roe Green Park in northwest London. Multiple people tried stopping the attack by using various techniques, but it wasn't until one brave man, I should say, stuck his finger up the dog's arse, they used something else, that the dog backed off. Sticking a finger up a dog's arse is an extreme but sometimes effective way to get the animal to drop whatever is in its mouth, according to online threads. The dog briefly stopped before he turned his attention to a different small dog and continued the attack. It's unclear what the small dog's current condition is. It's also unclear what happened to the dog who had a surprise colonoscopy. So there you go, everyone. If you're ever faced with this troublesome sort of moment in your life, you know what to do with your index finger, or whichever finger you prefer. That's what you do. So apparently it's it's a response. It causes their jaws to. Anyway, not that I want to get into all that sort of thing, but I just thought you ought to know. It's not a joke. It's a real thing, which is a bit. Anyway, at least I got to say the word arse 3 or 4 times, which is always never a bad thing, is it?
Who was the first person to find that out, though? It must have been a bleeding kinky git, mustn't it?
No, it's been reported in a local
somewhere
paper.
to find it out.
Well, this
but
Kingsbury
who did it
wrote
first?
Someone has filmed it because they got it on that thing, and it looks a genuine incident. Listen.
But then, when you come to think about it, in history, who was the first man to discover that? I mean, someone somewhere, who first saw. Oh, I wonder what will happen if I stick my finger up a dog's arse.
A twisted soul.
Yes.
Well, for those of you that feel as though I've sold you a bit short by not giving you access to the footage, and let's face it, I have. And if you're on the radio, you've got no chance. But if you're in Rumble right now, I've just put the link to the XCOM post so you can watch the whole sordid affair. And I don't know whether there's an award that this chap should have. Index Finger of the Year or something? What would it be? Best use of a human digit? I mean, there's got to be some sort of
Well-
award. I don't know.
I think he and the dog are living happily together now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, honestly, in the footage, the big dog is rather big and the little dog is very small. And you look at it, looks as though it's going to eat it at one point, literally. So it's all a bit much. He obviously got cross with the little dog. I don't know. I have no idea what was going on. But there you go. Now you know. Isn't it exciting? So, yeah.
Isn't that what you talk about, Eric, in your 2-finger salute at the beginning of your shows?
Oh, yeah.
What's this? Tell me more.
Well, every
Politicians.
Monday, yeah, you can actually have a politician or celebrity of your choice, and I'll give a 2-finger salute and blow a raspberry at them. So, and I think you should have this on your show. I think, people in chat can. I mean, do you know who is the top runner of the whole lot? It's
Deb?
Rachel Reeves.
Oh, no, I mean, as far as the winner of who gets it on your show, who's usually the first one on the show?
Yeah,
They
first
get
one on the show.
Okay.
And
You should
Rachel
keep
Reeves.
score. You should keep
Yeah.
score of who's the first
Yeah.
to do the
that's a good
sound
idea.
check.
Yeah.
But Rachel Reeves
know.
is the top politician, eh?
Yeah, she gets the raspberry
How
almost
about,
every
how
week.
about Americans? Who's the top American?
I think we've had Trump once. Oh, hang on, Biden. No, we had Biden. That was it. We had Biden once, and we had Trump once as well. But see, we need more Americans on the show to get on
Steady
there
on,
first.
Eric.
and,
Steady on. Don't get carried away.
Well, I was
I
on
mean,
the
I
show.
do
And
want-
I got one. It was Chuck Schumer. I chose.
Yeah, we didn't know who he was though, did we?
Yeah, you didn't know.
If the aggressive dog in that X article could only talk.
Can you feel that? Huh? Can you feel it, Captain Compost?
Yes, probably something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
probably was it its erotic moment of the week. Probably you never know the dog. Oh, there's not too many dogs listening to this. It might give them bad ideas.
Oh. I really don't know where we can go from there.
I'll tell you the funniest one. Have you ever seen this out?
We could bring the show to a temporary
And
early
it
halt
says-
if it's got out of hand. Has it got out of hand?
well,
It feels like it might have got out of hand. What's
no,
going on?
There
No,
was
we all
an
right?
There's an outtake. I don't know if you've ever been to. I suppose you haven't. In America, there might be a few Americans that have been to a British holiday resort, and I think it was Clacton. And there's a chap saying, "Come to Clacton." Who needs to go abroad when you can go to Clacton? And the camera goes round, and he says, "Beautiful, clean beaches." And just as the camera goes round, there's a dog curling one out on the beach.
I've noticed this show's only really been heading in one direction for the past few weeks, and it's picking up speed. Oh dear,
Picking up steam.
it's picking up steam indeed, Patrick. It is, yeah.
Okay. Well, I certainly hope the listeners are enjoying this as much as
Yes. Yes. Has anybody got anything serious or intelligent to say? No? I don't
Well,
mind. I'm
serious-
just playing the
serious
role
note.
of the slightly sort of, impatient headmaster in all of this kind of stuff. I actually really want. I'm not very good at it, to be quite honest. Yeah.
This weekend is Easter, to bring it to a serious note.
Yes.
Kind of a happy note.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a weekend, really. So today's what? Maundy Thursday, right?
Monday, Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, Monday, Thursday, which doesn't make any sense when you say it like that. Monday.
Maundy.
What about Wednesday, though? There was a special occasion on Wednesday. I think that was when, who is it that went against Christ? It was
Judas.
Judas, wasn't it? I think Wednesday was the day that Judas
Yes.
decided to work for the opposition, shall we say.
Yeah. He was handed a bag of money to betray him.
first turncoat.
Yep.
One of the first. Yeah. And then after that, all he did was think about how to plot to grab him and deceive him. So, yeah. Remember, today's is the day when they recognize the Last Supper and the washing of the feet.
But don't you think these police in Great Britain here that go around arresting pensioners and people like that for hate speech, aren't they Jewish?
Whoops. Sorry.
Whoops. Sorry, that's something I've eaten. I'm terribly sorry about that, you know.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry.
But seriously, don't you think these police are Judas? I mean, the police should be there to keep us safe, not safe from old age.
They're wage
pensioners that
slaves,
might
Eric.
say-
Like practically everybody else, this control of I can't pay, if I step out of line, I lose my job. My wife's going to divorce me. I lose my. This is there's a whole series of pressures on people, which ends up bringing them to a point where they behave badly. I'm not trying to let everybody off the hook because obviously some people just do behave badly anyway. But that's really what you do. So you're not having a human conversation. They are their role, and they need to get paid at the end of the month. And those pressures removed, like we were saying, if everybody owned their own house, that pressure would be you'd have more intelligence across the whole spectrum of civilization because people would begin to operate on their own volition, their own common sense, and re-employ it. But it's been hijacked by the reliance of a wage because we're proletarians. You can see it, yeah.
It's the whole change in the rules, as it were. You know, decades ago, I mean, all of the squad cars were called cruisers, and they had to protect and serve written on them. And the sheriffs and cops were they were actual law enforcement officers. Well, they've taken to protect and serve off of the cars. They're no longer peace officers. They are policy enforcers. That's where police comes from, policy enforcement. And they are enforcing the rules and policies of the deep state and the corporatocracy that is ruling the world.
Mm-hmm.
They've changed. And their methods of training and their intelligence has been altered. I mean, if you have a IQ higher than 100, they won't hire you as a cop. You're not supposed to be smart enough to actually be able to figure out if what you're doing is harming people or if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Your job is to enforce policy and to feed the deep state. Even if that deep state is just your own governor and your own legislative body in your own state. Mm-hmm. That's your job. Your job is revenue enforcement, revenuer. And the ones that got it right were the ones that had their liquor stills halfway up a mountain in the Appalachians. And they were just doing what they needed to do to survive. And the revenuers showed up and fed the government.
The G-men, T-men, and revenuers too. Searching for the place where he made his brew.
Yep. You can see this sort of, it's like a pressure wave that's on everybody. And of course, we see policemen in the light that they are. I mean, this other thing about a lower IQ as well. I think I don't know if we touched on this last week, but I know we've certainly touched on it in terms of soldiers returning from battle and the whole Roman thing. You know, we don't want any legions walking into Rome. Is that the political class in due course understand that robust, intelligent men who have a capacity for physical violence, who have served the government, also have a capacity to turn on the government if they're mistreated, and therefore they're anxious about it. So the idea of having people that are a bit dim working for them is all part of this disease that's running through all these structures. It's everywhere. And I'm going to continually say that it's the money power that's the root of all of it, and that if that can be sorted out, then we can sort everything else out. How that's to be done, of course, when you really start to give it more detailed thought, is tricky. It's tricky because they retain so much power as you're possibly making inroads into their power that they can still overwhelm you with this stuff. Yet I have no idea what else to do except to keep pounding
strength
on.
In numbers. Strength in numbers, like you say, pounding on.
It is. We've got to pound on, and I think Easter it's this Maundy Thursday was the Last Supper, where he's basically saying, keep my commandments, love one another. These are extremely vital things to be revived in sort of general discourse. I mean, if you were to say to everybody here, no matter, I know people have got understandable reservations about organized religion. I'm one of them. But remove that out of it and look at the essence of what it's actually all about. I don't have any reservations about that. I never did as a child. It's completely spot on. Everything's completely accurate. It's the way it ought to be. I was thinking, I thought, if it were the case, I'm just going back to something you said about an hour and a half ago as well, Patrick. If you said to everybody, look, if we all got baptized, we could sort this out, would you do it? People go, well, what for? But we need almost like a symbolic or some binding thing that we all do to be able to identify one another as people that want the honourable world back. I mean, one of the things that Belloc and Chesterton talk about, particularly Belloc, about bringing distributism as about, is how complicated it would be with the maturation of an industrial society. And he's right. And he's writing that in the 1920s, although he's fully aware of the machine age and of the telecommunications age. I think we touched upon this last week. But these principles are really the only ones that are going to make us happy. There's no reason why anybody should be borrowing money and paying 3 times the amount back to a mortgage company to live. I mean, it's just...
But where Belloc was... where he was at a disadvantage is he didn't have firsthand knowledge of how they have actually dumbed down everyone. The education system... I mean, Roger was talking about a study where there was 20-some% of people that graduate high school are functionally illiterate. And of the remainder, 56% could only read at an 8th grade level. And here they are graduating from high school and they're 4 years behind the times on being able to read and write. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you know what's even worse? Is if they're immoral.
Absolutely. And Belloc, he did not have firsthand experience or knowledge of what actually we would be dealing with in today's day and age. So we can take our marching orders from him, but we're going to have to tailor what we do based on the immaturity of the public in general. I'm of the mind that 80% of the people would be of little or no consequence in any battle for freedom.
I'm afraid I hate saying it, but I agree with you. I can't stand even thinking like this, but it's true. I mean, the whole thing with democracy is to basically whittle down the civilization. It's slow burn communism. It's just that's all it is. It takes hundreds of years. They don't care, but that's what it is. It basically, if you think about voting, and not that many of us do, right? You've got lots of people are given a vote and they're not qualified to actually make decisions about this. This is why prior to all this democracy nonsense, we had an aristocracy held in check by the moral and ethical standards of the church. No matter what people might want to think about it, it's way, way better than this. Way better. And you see, aristocracies just naturally arise. It can't be helped. No one is the equal of anybody else, ever. In any moment, at any time, throughout their life. That's what makes life the wonderfully chaotic, joyous, and amazing thing that it is, in part. But when it's abused, so the whole idea of, this plea for equality, which of course is still running and being pumped into the heads of the young. Yes, we've got to have equality and all this kind of stuff, a condition never, ever yet witnessed or ever will be in the whole of known creation. It's a madness. So if you're going to have an aristocracy, which you are, if you've, like I've said before, if you took 50 people and stuck them in a room, there'll be 4 or 5 that'll be a few steps ahead of everybody else in everything, practically, because people just are that way. And there'll be 4 or 5 others that are 3 or 4 steps behind everybody else as well. This doesn't mean, what do? You abuse the people that are not up to speed? You do not. It's ridiculous. There's a place for everyone. But this is what's happened. We've got this sort of accentuated, exaggerated situation, which has been amplified colossally by high-speed telecommunications, which we couldn't have done without. We wouldn't be having this conversation without them, and I think are fantastic. But we've also got to see that the bulk of that power lies in the hands of these morally and ethically distressed revolting, evil people. They're completely absent on this stuff, and they haven't got anything to contribute apart from their received power, which is really what it is. You know, it's centuries worth of the grasping of stuff and the holding of stuff. They're holding on to their sort of inheritance. And I think one of the things that Belloc even talks about with inheritance is it said when they get rid of that, which of course they're trying to do certainly with the farmers, you're completely finished. Completely finished. I mean, you're basically just floating around like particles of dust in their game. There's nothing you can do. So I think property or technically all these things can be done. Humanly, there's the rub. There's the rub.
Yes.
Well, you need to get over the fear of the punishment, first of all. And the more people that are fearless, they don't, like you said, there's strength in numbers, and the leaders in charge, the corrupt ones, fear them the most. Yeah. And yet they're the most vocal in promoting democracy, or at least the appearance of democracy, and dumbing down people and making them immoral so they don't go after them for their crimes. And that's where we need to come up with this lesson. And like I was saying, read Acts of the Apostles chapter 4, and it describes it perfectly. Where you had the Sanhedrin going after Peter and the apostles for preaching in the name of Jesus. And they're like, you can say anything you want, but just don't preach in his name. And they refused. And they were afraid because not just of the apostles, but they were gaining followers. And the followers, they were afraid of the reprisals from the followers, so they couldn't touch them. Mm-hmm. And that describes where we're at perfectly, because if you have enough people on board, the people who are ruling right now in corruption are going to be fearful of those people. And that's why you see such a determination of these groups, like Ofcom as the example, putting us, getting rid of the democracy, the actual good democracy. There's good and there's bad. And I think what we're seeing is desperation, which is a good thing. It's a good sign for us. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to be able to take advantage of that and work toward the good and do it in a moral way ourselves and keep ourselves in check. Because if we start becoming immoral, what good is that?
I know. Yeah. It is. You're all called to be jolly good chaps and jolly good chapesses. It really is. It's these old traditional values are absolutely required. I can't see any other way. So that, if even in the small groups you form a peer group, which is like a power battery to you, like this show is to us and hopefully many of the listeners. It's a little battery that pumps you up every week and you go, good, I'm not out here in the hinterlands. And of course, when you begin to research this, you realize that in the past, there were huge numbers of people that understood this instinctively, and much of it was being operated upon. It was actually being enacted in society, although it's been in decline for a long time, certainly according to Belloc. And all your points are absolutely true, Paul. Of course, the form changes, but the experience is the same. So the actual machinery that we're dealing with, or the logics that we have to apply, will be different from each age with all the toys that they've now got. Of course, they didn't invent any of these things. They're not responsible. So people, really bright guys come up. Like there's an aristocracy of technicians. There are some that are just that little bit smarter, a bit quicker, because there's going to be. No one's at the same speed about anything. But one group could be fantastic, in the 1910s, and 30 years later it's another group because they've got a different understanding of things, and that benefits everybody. But when we've got this intermediary, this ridiculous group of people who are deluded enough to think that they know what's going on, and, going back to what Paul's just said recently about, he who dies with the most wins, it's just, what? What are you talking about? We should write to Klaus Schwab and say, you do know you're going to die, don't you? And everybody that you work with, you're all going to be dead, right? And your contribution is less than zero. You do realize this, don't you? But you can't, it seems to me it's not possible to get through to them. I mean, it literally, like they've got a mental condition. I've said it here before. They are mentally ill. because they've only focused on one narrow area, which is our economic and political prowess. Yeah, and we're really good at this. Yeah, you are. Yeah, fantastic. And nothing else exists outside of this. If we just keep controlling everything, it's just going to get better and better. Haven't you noticed that it's getting worse and worse? If we keep controlling this, it's going to get better and better. It's literally, there is, I don't know what the solution is. Can't they come up with a sort of vaccine for that? That might help.
I don't know.
No, it's tougher.
They do live. They do live by the moniker "He who dies with the most toys wins," because if they pass that wealth and those toys onto their heirs, and their heirs are properly trained, they will continue the 100, 200, or 3-year or 300-year plan to take over the world. That is their goal. They are multi-generational.
But like you said, what good does it do? What good does it do if they pass on?
It doesn't do for them.
No, but then what good? In their mind, what everybody should be focused on is things that we all are going to face. We're going to face death, judgment, heaven, or hell, and we have that choice. So these people who think that they're going to die, well, they don't believe in it, obviously, but
it's going to be a bit of a surprise to them then when they find out. I mean, this is obviously why they're pursuing this idea of being able to transport their souls into other bodies, which is a bit odd.
Yeah.
And it's such a sort of, or maybe they're literally demons who know what's coming up for them if they can't make that work. But that's just a bit too weird. Why would they even be here in the first place? It's just a bit daft, really. I mean, don't they know? Oh. Anyway, I think the ground for us is to warm more people up to the idea that life really you want it decent for your family if you can reconnect with that desire and get your head out of all the distractathon that's going on. It is about re-establishing moral and ethical behavior in a framework that works under a system of law that, guess what, we've already got it. It's just not being applied. And we've got the technology and it's just not being applied. I mean, so many stupid examples of this. I'm going off at a tangent here. Or
it's being applied, but it's not getting attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's like someone who's doing things quietly in the background rather than trying to be the center of attention. And that's kind of how we have to appraise how we're doing it and not do it for our own glory, but for actual good purposes, which don't always get recognized in this world, but there's always the next world.
There's so many profoundly dense things taking place in the public space, you can't keep up with them. Over here, for example, these are just all signs of the sort of complete mental degradation of so many people in ostensibly positions of power, and they're incapable of even recognizing it. So we've had a thing over here where they're shutting down coal mines and everything, and now they need some coal to save the British steel industry, which they didn't want to save anyway. They wanted it to sell it off to everybody. And of course, I say they. Who are they? Again, the politicians are going to get it in the neck because it serves the real control as well for them to get it in the neck. But this thing of globalist markets and free enterprise around the world, it's complete bunk. It's just rubbish. We don't need it. I mean, it's just absolutely bizarre. We do not need it. I don't want handbags from China. I mean, maybe many of the women do. I don't really know. And if you want to buy a handbag, I think the place to buy them is China because they're about 1/10 of the price than if you go and buy them from Gucci because that's where they get them all made. But this whole idea that we've got to have all this stuff. So you've got the stuff, then you've got the advertising industry promoting this and beaming it into everybody's heads to buy things that they don't need. If you're going to buy a toaster, get a DeLonghi one. Ours is over 30 years old. It's absolutely brilliant. It's never ever broken. A DeLonghi toaster. What a piece of kit. It's a kitchen thing. It just does toast, right? You drop toast in it. 30 years I've had it. It's absolutely fab. That's what I want. I want stuff made well. Remember some time ago we were talking about Silvio Gesell and this whole idea of products decaying and therefore you have money that decays at the same rate, called demurrage. Okay,
is that what it's called?
It's called demurrage. Yeah, it's a funny word, isn't it? To
Planned
demur means to
obsolescence.
give way. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. So he created a money that basically lost purchasing power unless you stuck stamps on it. And what it caused was that the quality of workmanship in everything went up. Because people said, I don't want to keep running around spending this money. If I buy a table, I want it well made. I want it to last 50 years. I don't want it to last 5. So everything got, whereas now we have the IKEA box pack stuff. Not that it's bad. My bookshelves have lasted 25 years, so it's pretty good. So I'm not moaning about it all. And I guess it's sort of supplying a need given the sort of madness of the situation. But there's all these other wonderful things that we can't anticipate. And we're never going to see until we crush the money power by its own testicles. It's got to have its entrails wrapped around its neck and thrown into the abyss. And people have got to get that passionate about it because it's stopping all of us from actually living life to anywhere near to the full.
It's like that story of the 3 servants that the master gives talents to. One he gives like 5 talents, the other 2, and then the other 1, and the first 2 double it. The last one buries it in the ground. That's perfect. An analogy for what you're talking about, where you have an expiring currency where that value is going back to the common pool of the people, where you have to spend it right away. I think there are certain cryptocurrencies that are operating on that principle right now, but it's just a matter of how would we implement that in our day-to-day life right now.
Well, I think, going back to that those 3 areas of a spiritual, let's call it a regeneration, and then the political sphere and the economic. Until the fire gets back into people, they're not going to work hard enough to transform politics and the economy in line with moral and ethical law. They're not going to do it. And so we're like birds in a gilded cage. Although everything that we talk about is ruinously bad and is only going to get worse, if you can still go down the supermarket and just about afford your shopping now, because it's getting absolutely, we will run out of adjectives to describe it. But of course, this is all part of the plan. They never really talk about supply and demand or any of this stuff anymore. They just talk about this colossal debt, and it doesn't even matter. It's not even spoken about as if it's a really serious matter to deal with, because it isn't anymore, because the whole economy probably already is centrally controlled, courtesy of organizations like BlackRock and the AI systems that they have. So I would have thought, because of all these things that they control, they can adjust sort of global supply chains and go, well, if we put the price up of this here, it means that everybody in Nuneaton is going to be paying 10 pence more for their eggs in 3 months' time, and that's good. And then they find out how much purchasing power everybody's got left, and they make sure you don't have any left. The prices are just going to rise to meet whatever you've got so that you can't plan. That's all part of it as well. This is literally part of this sort of high-tech feudalist state that they want to bring. So, I mean, there's 2 things that we have to do. It seems that there's probably more than 2. One is to restore fury inside the hearts of our own people. They've got to get mad. As Peter Finch said, first you've got to get mad. You do. And then you need to channel that anger in a constructive way. And the second thing that we have to do is to find ways of disturbing the other side. Soft interference so that they can't work. And the main thing, of course, is the media, which we're massively outgunned on. But what else can we do? We've got to do something. So I think, if it's one person at a time, finding effective messaging and improving the messaging is absolutely the way to go. Oh, look, we're coming to the end of the... I'm banging on so much, we're coming to the end of the thing. Where are we now? Oh, we are. We're just coming up. Let me just say thanks for being with us. No, we're glad for being with you here on WBN. We're just coming to the end of the first 2 hours. We're going to carry on.
WBN.
Yes, absolutely. Here on WBN 324. Sorry about that, bumbling around, saying all sorts of things. And what did I want to do here? Let me just check something, because I want to play out with a song. So we were talking earlier about sunshine, weren't we? We're going to be back here at the same time next week. Look at me garbling my closeout messages here on WBN. Classic song here is The Sun Has Got His Hat On. Eric was requesting this a little bit earlier today, and rightly so. So we're going to play out with that. We'll be back again same time next week. At 3 p.m. US Eastern, 8 p.m. here in the UK. We're going to play it with this. And if you want to carry on listening to us, come over to Rumble, and you'll find the link to that over on paulenglishlive.com. We'll see you all next week, and we're going to carry on for another hour or so. Here's that lovely song that Eric was after. Sing along, everyone.
Has got his hat on, hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. Now we'll all be happy, hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. He's been tanning niggers out in Timbuktu. Now he's coming back to do the same to you. So jump into your sunbath, hip, 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. All the little birds are singing, all the little gnats are stinging, all the little bees in twos and threes buzzing in the sun all day. All the little boys excited, all the little girls delighted. What a lot of fun for everyone, sitting in the sun all day.
The sun has got his hat on. Hip, 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 hooray. Although it's 10 o'clock at night, so I can't see the sun, but I saw it all today. Eric, one of your favourite tunes. That was jolly good, wasn't it? You there, Eric? Where's he gone?
Is he still there? Or
He's
did
still
he disappear again?
He's on screen. You see, I give him these great intros, and he's... What am I supposed to do? Anyway... Did you hear one of the lyrics in there? Good grief! Oh. Somebody needs to go and look at the lyrics. I couldn't possibly repeat that lyric on here, but it was written in 1932 when life was slightly different.
Slightly, you think?
I think it was quite a bit different.
I think it was worlds apart from what we have today.
Mm-hmm.
Literally worlds apart.
Yes. And that arrangement was by, who was that by? Ambrose, I think, or something. The sun has got his hand on Ambrose and his orchestra. So there you go. Jolly good arrangement. I need more stuff like that because I find that if I play even things that are relatively modern, YouTube says there's a copyright strike on this. And the podcast of this show is also distributed to Spotify. And they came back and said, 38 of your shows contain songs that we think are rather, you shouldn't be playing them. Or if you prove that you cannot. And I just thought, so what? I mean, I'm not upset. I don't really mind. I don't know how many people listen to me on Spotify, although someone did write in and say, I listen to you on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't get this show. And I went, yeah, well, there's just a problem with it sometimes. And there we go. There's not too much that we can do about it. Anyway, Eric's obviously down the pub or something.
I sent you one on Telegram that wouldn't fall under copyright.
All right, okay. So we need the non-copywriting phase. And speaking of people writing in and saying jolly good things. You forwarded this to me earlier today, didn't you, Patrick, from Lisa?
Yes.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks very much for the message. I'm going to read it all out to you. This is a listener's letter into the show, into the studio. And we've had it checked by the Secretarial Department, and it's all fine. It says, "Hello, Patrick. I've been listening to David Irving on YouTube talking about World War II, and I'd like Paul English to explain more fully what really happened, as the audio is not great," I guess with reference to David's stuff. "Also, it's great to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I absolutely love the Thursday show. It's the highlight of my week." Well, reading out this letter from you, Lisa, is the highlight of mine. This is tremendous stuff. "Sorry for messing you, but I don't know how to message Paul directly." Yes, I'm tricky to get hold of. "I'm not very techie. Thank you, Lisa." And thank you very much, Lisa, for sending the message in. So if anybody wants to write in and send polite, formal letters like that, that's great. It's really good. It came across Telegram. We don't necessarily have to talk about World War II. I was hoping that Eric would be around because he's lining up a show, I think, for this weekend. It's April the 20th. So this Sunday is quite a thing. It's Easter Sunday. Obviously, for those that are keeping a note of those sorts of things, which should be all of us to some degree. Yes. And it's also Adolf Hitler's birthday. And also, we are in 2025, and I think coming up on May the 7th, is it? It's the end of World War II, or the 80th anniversary of the end of it. Of course, it's difficult to sort of get too excited about it when we're slap bang in the middle of World War III.
It's the end of the Third Republic, and we're in the Fourth Republic now here in America.
Yeah.
80-year cycle.
Are you back, Eric?
Beginning 1776.
Yes, I'm back. I got booted out. The sound just went straight off. I've had to come back in again. I don't know quite what's going
I
on.
think we need to get you in. We need to get you a new computer or something. I think it's nobody. I think it's that.
I know what it is.
Do you use
steam powered?
Your steam-powered computer, yeah.
That's what it is.
Actually,
I
yes.
bigged you up. I wanted all your comments about "The Sun Has Got His Hat On." There was a lyric line.
Beautiful song.
Yeah.
Beautiful song. And I tell you something, I have suffered from depression, and that normally helps to get me happy. I don't know what it is about that song. It just cheers me up. Strange. So
Well,
if you're a bit depressed,
Have you got the
play
Have you
it,
got the
know?
lyrics in front? Have you ever read the lyrics? Do you know the lyrics?
Yes, they are a little bit naughty in certain
I didn't
places,
even
which
realise. I've
could
just
cause
caught
effects.
it today for the first time. I used to
Yes.
sing it as a kid, all happy and innocent, and now I realise that the politically correct squad would have our guts for garters on this one, Eric. It's terrible. It's not our fault. It's 1932. You better take it up with Ambrose and his orchestra. But they're all dead, so you can't.
Yes.
So there we go. Yeah.
But can we be dumb for listening to it? Because we're supposed we'd be far right for listening to that, surely, won't we?
I'm shocked. Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting quite sensitive in my middle years. I don't want to upset anybody, everyone.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that.
It's such a happy. You see, that's the thing. That's what happiness is. And you notice that most of the records in the 30s were to cheer people up. Why? Because they've been through a terrible war in the First World War. They wanted cheering up. And going back to what we were saying about the Cottingley Fairies, people wanted to believe it because that was something nice after they've lost loved ones and the hell of First World War. So I think that was a case of...
And here, you couldn't
wanting to
drink
believe.
until the 30s. From the end of World War II, or
Prohibition.
World War I till 1919 until 1933, I think it was.
Yeah.
They went dry. Couldn't even have a glass of wine.
What was that thing?
Imagine that.
There used to be that ginger ale called Canada Dry, didn't there?
Yeah, it still is.
So there's a joke, something. I knew someone saw that thing, drink Canada Dry. So he went there and did, which I quite liked.
I think as Dean Martin was, because, Dean Martin, he acted drunk, but he wasn't. He wasn't sloshed. Apparently he didn't drink much. He's
drinking
sober most
tea.
of the time. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he
He had
knew
a
how
good
to
drunk
act
act.
drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said if he was stoned, no agent would book him because he would be drunk all the time, but so he wasn't. So, and apparently Oliver Reed, when he went on to the Aspel show and showed himself up, that was an act. He was sober when he did that.
Right.
It's just to give him publicity.
Well,
So it's
when America was dry, there was a lot of illegal activity crossing the border from Canada, coming into, I think it was down in Kentucky, was
right
where centered, and Kentucky was like the Las Vegas, and then it eventually ended up in Cuba, and then Las Vegas, Nevada. All of that, the naughty stuff of society. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
But they would bring whiskey and whatnot from Canada, from the distilleries where they didn't have prohibition, down to the States, and it made a fortune.
All by design, I would suspect, Patrick. The whole thing, the whole event was probably to bring that bootlegging industry about. I just think.
Probably was.
Yeah,
And
they were
look
all
at
ready
the,
to go.
The bootleggers, and have you seen the bootlegger shoes? They actually tied wooden soles onto them that were modelled on cows' hooves. So when they were moving the bootleg stuff around, when the police came along, they didn't see footprints; they saw cows' hooves. So
those thieving cows.
That earlier, weren't we? You said something like putting a horseshoe on your shoe.
Yeah.
The clock, make the click clack noise when you walk.
Oh, that's it. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what they did. There's a famous picture of it. If you look up Wikipedia, you see the bootleggers, and you actually see this wooden things that were carved to look like cows' hooves and things or whatever.
Or horses' hooves or something.
Yeah, anything like that. Yeah. So it's quite an idea. But there was a famous. Somebody in chat might know what it was. It was a famous drink they had in Ireland that was officially illegal. But you could go into any pub and sort of quietly say, you've got some of this brew, and they'd serve it to you.
Mm-hmm.
The Irish government realised it was so open in the end that the police the Gardaí turned a blind eye to it. The government made it legal, and sales dropped like a stone. Hardly anybody wanted it. Strange, isn't it?
Yeah. So did they have prohibition in Ireland for a period of time?
No, they didn't have prohibition, but it was a certain ale that people made, a traditional drink that I think they made it from potatoes or something. I don't know. Somebody in chat would know. It's a bit sketchy. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't do my research on this, but it was the name of a drink that they did have a prohibition on, but you could buy any other alcoholic drink. But I think it's because it was homemade, and they was a bit worried about health and safety and all that old twaddle. So it was outlawed.
Oh, they couldn't tax it, in other words.
They couldn't tax it, that's right. And then when they made it legal, people stopped drinking it. No, it used to be out like mead and wine. It was illegal here until 1964. To actually brew your own ale and make your own wine, and they changed it in the budget in 1964. Before then, you could be sent to prison for brewing your own ale, but it's still illegal to distill, isn't it? You can't distill whiskey and things like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
In where you're at?
In Britain, I don't know whether it is still in America. Is it the same in America?
I'm not sure. It's kind of blurry what the rules are here. It probably varies from state to state.
Well, it's not blurry at all in New York. Not blurry at all. If you even own a still with a higher capacity than 1 gallon, it's a felony.
Really?
And they will lock you up. Because it's presumed that if you have a still greater than a 1 gallon capacity, that you would do it.
When I was in Moscow, I was going to all sorts of these stores, these big mega stores, and they had stills that they were selling. Like, it's like going to Sam's Club, Paul, where you go and you'd see like pallets and pallet racking of things, and then they'd have like all the different stills and things that you could buy, and it's like, wow, we don't have anything like this in America.
Well, I certainly need to go to Russia then.
Yeah.
Putin, here I come.
Free. A little bit more.
Well,
of
it
a
seems
free
a lot
society.
freer. Well, apparently you can say what you want about Putin in Russia, and nobody's going to pick you up or anything like that. And you can say, you haven't got hate speech laws there. And the food, I believe, is more pure. I'm only going by second-hand information. It could be wrong. If I'm wrong,
I believe
please
you're
tell
right.
me.
Everything
I don't
I've
think
heard,
you're GMO. You can't
everything
get GMO
I've heard
stuff.
is genetically modified. If you have
Here, I've got
modified seed,
I've got
and
a
you get
George.
caught with it.
Yeah, you know George Galloway.
Yeah.
We do.
Here, I've got one for you.
I have been in a gay bar with the village people throbbing out YMCA within earshot of Lenin's tomb.
That's it. Well,
Well, they've had a gay old time, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one of the good things that's happened over here as well, apart from there was the bit about coal recently, which I mentioned, where they're shipping coal in from Japan, who's not even a coal exporting company, because they need a certain type of coke. No, apparently they need a certain type of coke to go into this furnace to retain the last steel plant in England, which they sold to the Chinese anyway, and they didn't want it, or Tata or some Indian firm. I mean, it's just... And then all of this is just a cover story. Basically, it's just the fact that we're not in charge of our own nation and it's been taken over by super capitalism and blah, 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 blah. So that's been really, really great to see. It's fantastic. Of course, all the windmills are doing nothing. They're just these huge, stupid monstrosities. It's just like a testament to idiocy, really. So, I'm not saying anything new. The other thing that's been really rather brilliant this week is that women are apparently women again. This is amazing, but there's been a massive judicial inquiry into things, and it turns out, and I'm bowled over by this, it turns out that we've been right all along, and by all along I mean for millions of years, that if you're born a female, you're a female, and if you're born a male, you're a male. And this is amazing, and this is a great victory for women to have this confirmed. Yeah, and that trans women, which don't exist, there's no such thing as a trans woman. This is complete linguistic Marxist crap, as usual.
Transhumanism.
They're just people that have mangled themselves. It's tragic, but they've done it, and it's sad, and they need help. You can't actually change what you're born as. That's it.
That's why they indoctrinate people with evolution. The theory of evolution becomes reality in their minds, and it's like, well, no, it's just a theory. It's not. Doesn't mean it's fact.
It's a theory that Darwin didn't fully subscribe to himself. He had doubts about it. So there you go, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's good, isn't it, Eric, to know that all the women in England can be women again. And J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter thing, she's thrilled to bits because she's been on the right side of this all along. She's been, I think, plagued by some sort of one of them. I don't know their names of these things or whatever.
A troll?
No, a bloke that thinks he's a woman or something. I mean, it's just, I don't even know how to use the right language. I'm not trying to give offense. It's just me. I'm a thicko, right?
Mental illness.
Yeah, it is. It's a psychosexual behavioural disorder, which is the same as sodomy and all the others. People get confused. Probably go to confused.com. No, they don't deal with that sort of stuff, do they, anyway? Well, there's a thing in the Daily Mail here. It says, trans women set to be barred from female bathrooms and sports and could be asked to use disabled toilets at work after new landmark ruling links gender to biological sex.
Who made the ruling?
It's ridiculous. That women, if you're born of the female sex, you're a female. Yes. Anyway, everybody's had a Beano making money. I hope all the lawyers have made piles of money at somebody's expense, probably ours as usual. Good grief. And
who made this ruling, Paul? Who's doing this?
Oh, it's a very high court. Let's have a look.
It's in Scotland, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been all over the TV.
In Scotland.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, but it's only in Scotland, though, isn't it? It's not. It doesn't come down to England or Wales.
It's England.
Scottish Bar.
No, it's everywhere. It's the Supreme Court's ruling.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I didn't realise
the whole thing. It's the old kit and caboodle. The Supreme Court's ruling that the definition of a woman in equality law is based on biological sex means trans women, with a gender recognition certificate.
It's like the licensing fee from Ofcom.
Oh, I need a certificate. Yeah, I've got to have one from an authority, another clot. Can be excluded from single-sex spaces if proportionate. What does proportionate mean? There's another judge coming in to decide what is and isn't proportionate. Equality and Human Rights Commission Chairwoman Baroness Kishwa Faulkner has described yesterday's ruling as enormously consequential and she vowed to pursue organisations which do not update their policies. Well, it is a step back to sanity, because it's basically been in the realm of insanity, by design, of course, for some time now. Going on, the Mail says, on issues such as toilets, changing rooms and sports, Baroness Faulkner echoed the government in saying the ruling had brought clarity to providers on their duties under equality law around single-sex spaces. Asked if it was now simple that trans women cannot take part in women's sport, she told BBC Radio 4 Today, yes, it is, so they can't. Actually, they never did. They never, ever took part in it. It's just been a farce. It doesn't even exist. It's not even in the record books. It's just another one of these great delusions. We have to put it in the book, delusions, of crowds, or the delusions of governments. And that's really all it's been. Tragic, really.
Well, I don't even like to see men dressed as women. These drag acts, I could never see anything in a drag act. To me, it is demeaning women, because a man is a man and a woman is a woman. I don't want to see a man dressed as a woman. I find it uncomfortable and distasteful. I really do.
It's satanic.
Yeah,
it is
weird.
I actually went to town today because Aldi's got some vegetables for 8p, which is not bad, is it? They're doing a cheap
8p
run.
Vegetables. 8p for
8p vegetables, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Anyway, there's this... I was I could hear this noise going on in the town centre. They got this big display on, and they're singing the Monkees' "I'm a Believer." And I have to admit, they're doing a really good job of it. I was thinking, crumbs, that sounds great. And then I went round the front where the stage is, and there's all these rainbow flags and rainbow things, and I was thinking, and then the penny drops.
Right.
I don't know what it was all about, but it was. Loads of charities there, and
charity,
so
mate. It's always for charity. We all
that's
do it
right.
for
So
charity,
I just,
mate.
I did the human equivalent of getting into Top Gear, straight off. I think there were skid marks where my feet were. I didn't want to have anything to do with it because, I just find that it's a gender thing, and there's all children round. These blokes dressed as women. I just found it.
It's sick.
Very sick.
It's completely sick, and it's
felt
totally by design.
It made me feel
and it's-
physically sick.
It's
Yes.
Weimar Republic 2.0 or whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. It's
You're right.
Same thing as the porn stuff. It's to set up a conditioning space in which people think that this is acceptable. It isn't, and that's
and the
it.
poor children. They're just there and they're thinking, oh, I like rainbows. Rainbows are nice, and and a rainbow is an interesting thing, but it's been made into this perverted icon that we all see as something perverse now.
It's been
compared to what it
inverted.
should be. Inverted.
Well,
yes.
rainbows. I used to like rainbows. I thought they were very nice. Unicorns. Now, it's something nice for children to believe in, but it's been corrupted to mean something else. So use unicorn. Isn't it sick? Everything's sick. I just.
Yeah, it
I
is.
find it awful.
It's by design.
Yeah.
It's by, these little psychological deranged boffins know where the emotional sort of kindly points are in our makeup, and they exploit them by design. Yeah, they think they're so clever, and I guess you are, you stupid Herberts. But so our job is just to defend as many people as we can from this stuff. I think in many ways, and it's everybody's job to do that. And so this is a good decision, even though we're slightly semi-mocking it. It is a good thing. It's just bizarre that you have to actually go back to, well, we now understand what's actually in front of our own eyes. What, you mean like we always used to? Until what they should be saying is, we've wasted loads of money implementing things that were deranged, and we all need to sack ourselves. Yes, that's more like it. Just go, the lot of you. Anyway.
But for example, do you know, I don't know if you saw Dad's Army in the States. Did you at all, Dad's Army? Probably wouldn't have done.
I haven't. No.
Yeah. What it was about during World War II, we had a thing called the Home Guard, and it was mainly elderly men that were too old to fight on the front, and they joined this thing called the Home Guard, and they went home every night. And they were given sort of naff rifles. In fact, they didn't have enough rifles to go round, and they had to raid a museum.
This was in the
to
60s?
get some guns. No. This is during the war, during World War II.
No. I mean the show. It was.
The show was in the late 60s, early 70s, and
it reminds me of. There's a scene in Dr. Zhivago. I don't know if you've seen the David Lean film, Dr. Zhivago, where
Yes,
the white
I've seen it.
white army, it's mostly old men and young boys with
Yes.
ancient weapons, and they're just getting mowed down by the modern Soviets. Reminds me of that.
Well, the thing is, what it was is that there was a scene in it where was the famous scene where they captured a German U-boat crew, and the captain is making notes of how they're being treated, and anybody making a mocking remark about the Germans is saying, "What is your name?" And the Captain Mannering, who's who runs the platoon, says, "Don't tell you." He says, "What's your name?" He says, "Don't tell him, Pike." That was a famous scene. But what I was going to say, as that particular program went on, there's a scene where they had to put a bomb. They put a bomb down. It's supposed to have been Captain Mannering's trousers. Okay, and they were so
down his
Victorian.
trousers. You sure?
A bomb down his trousers, and apparently. He thought it was so disgusting and he was very Victorian, and most of the actors refused, and eventually it was Clive Dunn that said, "Okay, you can put a bomb down my trousers." Right. Now that was how stiff starched they were, and that was in the late 60s, early 70s.
Too bloody right. That's what we want. We don't want
moved
any
on
bombs
since
down
then.
anybody's trousers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
we
that was
haven't
all
moved
sort
on.
of then.
I don't think we have moved on. They just make out.
No, we haven't moved on. We've gone backwards.
Well, yeah, it's to do with this mainstream media thing, is that they keep bombing a thing out long enough and people sort of morph into thinking that is the genuine context for life. It isn't. And so the idea is just to become robust, indifferent, and repel the progressive world, which we do. That's what this is about, isn't it? This is kind of a little life raft. Maybe it's a big one. Maybe we're going to turn it into a super ocean-going tanker, armed to the teeth, to mow these people out of the water, which is what needs to be done. So that people stop buying into this stuff. Some interesting little comments here recently in Rumble with regards to the Supreme Court. Billy Silver writes, "The gender ruling has beaten the Bolshevik society inverting vermin with a broom, a little bit back towards the door." Yes. What's that thing? We don't want to discuss the rat. We want to beat it to death with a broom. We're not interested in actually analysing the whole thing. You just got to go. Alvin Kurt writes, "So can they stop biological born men from dressing up in women's clothes now?" I don't think that can be stopped.
You could from doing it out in public.
Yeah, you could. You could make it an actual public offence, and it should be a public offence
or
because it is
shame
offensive.
There again, if you have
I don't
enough
think they
people,
can.
you can
I don't think they're shamed. They're already too far gone.
You
might be right.
Well, you could, with enough people, get them to leave the public square. If enough people, just imagine the scenario where they come into the public square and there are enough people there that get out of here. We don't need that stuff here. You get the crowd. If you had a moral crowd, I think that's what we need. That's where the power is with the crowd. And
we need to.
We
probably need to.
What isn't.
We need to find a champion of the new Mary Whitehouse Society.
Oh yes,
you think Debs would be on for it, or maybe Aunt Sally?
I think Debs would be Aunt Sally or Debs would be perfect for it. But what gets me, when you think about it, you think of these tribes in the Amazon and all round. They don't wear anything. So supposing there's a bloke in those tribes that wants to be a female. I mean, how long would he last?
But they don't, do they? They don't want to be females because they're actually proper. They've at least got that bit
they're
right.
They're proper blokes. They go out and hunt, and they come back with the meat.
Those guys are scary. Have you ever seen any of those interviews? Those guys that have hung out down in the Amazon. You don't want to go down there, mate. We walk like 2 minutes. They kill anything and everything. They're unbelievable hunters. Yeah.
Oh, they are. They're very, very clever. I mean, there was an SAS bloke that went stayed with the tribe down there.
Yeah,
and they were with a bow and arrow. They were killing monkeys up in the trees. Now this bloke was at SAS. He knew how to use rifles. I'm not sure he was a crack shot, but he was pretty good. And he said he felt really puny and pathetic. They actually half killed a monkey and let him finish it off, and he was trying to fire arrows at it. And he said these people are incredible, and the speed they run through the jungle. He said they really know their stuff, and they come back with the meat every night. You know, that's the thing. They're hunters. But I think that I think these people that want to be women and that, I think they've got too much time on their hands, and they've probably got too much money as well, because if you're busy working, I mean, you know,
we need a great challenge, don't we, as a civilization? You know, before it was like, let's go take over the world. All right, done that. Now what? I mean, I don't know, but yeah. There's not, you know, we think of the sort of the manly things that you would do is like wielding a sledgehammer or being a welder or, you know, and there are still jobs like that. But of course, they're tough and horrible jobs, you know, but they created a sort of type of bloke that existed, and they made for great cannon fodder, didn't they? All the miners and all these people that worked in fields, they're already leathery and tough, as you and I would be had we lived such a life. Had we lived such a life, we probably wouldn't be alive by now. Most of them passed away before the age of 60 anyway, you know, because it was that grindy. But it's different times. It just really is. You know, anyway, look, we've still got a little bit of time left. And I mentioned last week, and I've just come across a post from him here. Chris Langan, the brainiest man in the world. You know him?
Yeah. Not personally, no, but...
No, I don't. I'd love to get him on the show. I've got to find a way. I'd love to get him on here. Everything he writes, I just go, yes. Anyway, this is kind of lengthy, but it kind of taps into some of the things that we were talking about 35 minutes ago. And you know how we jump up and down the sort of little timeline here, which is fun. He writes this. He says, according to Milton Friedman... Now, if you don't know Milton Friedman, he's no longer alive, but he was an economic theorist and monetarist. I think he's the father of monetarism out of the Chicago School. Anyway, Langan writes, he says, according to Milton Friedman, cheap goods like pencils are available thanks to a combination of globalism plus the magic of the price system, i.e. free trade plus capitalism. So far, so good, writes Langan. He goes on. But unfortunately, we're no longer talking about old-style nation-building capitalism. No, we're not. Now we're talking about global monopoly supercapitalism, in which fascistic, government-embedded supercapitalists monopolize resources and production and use their monopolies to control demand by limiting the consumer markets to just their own products. These elite globalists are black holes of greed and sociopathic narcissism who produce just two things. One, corporate governmental hierarchies whose products are bad for mankind, e.g. lots of invasive surveillance and control technology designed to promote a great reset in which everyone else will own nothing and be happy. Now eat your cricket paste and bend over for your next round of toxic vaccines. I include the Klaus Schwab Dr. Strangelove pronunciation as he did. Number two, the outrageous hype, also known as deceptive self-dealing nonsense, to sell these harmful products, or rather to force them down our throats while picking our pockets. There are two levels of capitalists who count these days. A, billionaires, often of the techie, gee whiz, look what I hired engineers to think up for me stripe. Quite like that, that's true. B, the trillionaires of the global banking system who produce nothing but funny money and the creative financial technology that supports the pocket-stuffing portfolio bloating billionaire trillionaire circle jerk. We could add political bribery and corruption along with a steady stream of lukewarm piss. I think I can say that because it's 10:30 in the upturned faces of humanity, but why dwell on negatives? The billionaires, he goes on, are critically dependent on the trillionaires. Interesting, but it's probably true. This means that when the trillionaires go spectacularly bad by, for example, committing white genocide through the calculated weaponization of mass third world migration to all and only white nations for over 60 years straight, the billionaire either get with the program or they end up drained, dumped, and defamed. That's why virtually all billionaires support the nefarious Kalergi program and pledge allegiance to the bankster master race, joyfully heralding the engineered Eurasian Negroid slave race of the future, as written by Kalergi back in 1926. But all of that being understood, and given the obvious fact that free trade has now been clearly revealed as a transparent scam called monopoly supercapitalism, can we please lay tired, patronising old Friedman here to rest as the disingenuous facilitator of monopoly capitalism that he most certainly was? Yes, I know. It's mammonistic, money-driven global cooperation that created this pencil. But here's the thing. People are getting tired of bending over to have the pencil utilised as an all-purpose rectal probe. Ooh. And inserted point first by the sociopathic idiots snatching all the profit from its manufacture and sale, which is why they continue to fatten like hogs as the rest of us slowly starve to death due to the inflation they cause by printing free money for themselves and their corporations and telling everyone else to go piss up a rope. Thanks, Chris.
Those hogs should be treated like those dogs you were talking about earlier.
Well, it's interesting that
pencil.
things about going up people's bottoms has come up twice. There's that guy that saved that dog by sticking his finger up that dog's arse, and he's talking about pencils going in the same thing, and he's absolutely right. I like Langan a lot, as you can tell. I'd not even read that before. While I was just looking at clips that popped up from last week's show. But there you go. A little long, I know, but I like it. It's clear and it's excellent stuff. So that's it. So Chris, what do we do? Do we all become bouncers and beat them to death? Because someone's got it.
Well, it's a bit like the constipated clerk who worked it out with a pencil. Sorry, it's a terrible joke, isn't it? Sorry.
Yes. No, I quite like that one.
We're talking about bottoms, yes.
Yeah.
But no, I just think that capitalism, the ultimate objective of capitalism, is communism. That's it. Yeah. And because you destroy all your opposition, then you end up controlling the country.
Yep.
And this is why I believe in free enterprise, but not capitalism. And I think Henry Ford, he believed in free enterprise, but not capitalism, because he could have taken over Lockheed, but he didn't. And he said, "Well, we're good at making
corrupted."
Yeah, he said, "We're good at making motor cars. They're good at making brake parts." And let them keep on making good brake parts because we make motor cars. We don't make brakes. And you spawn. This is the thing.
Well, it becomes the Wall Street casino where you're just buying stocks and bonds all the time, and you don't care about the people involved in the actual manufacturing and the service. The actual
just look at
production.
Cars now. Aren't they boring? You look at cars.
They're all the same color, too. They're hardly any vibrant colors at all.
But you look at the cars of the 60s and 70s, they were, my dad had a Morris Oxford. A Morris Oxford, if you look that up, Austin Cambridge, I don't think they sold in the States. The only one that did was a failure, which was called Austin Metropolitan. And Americans didn't want it, and I can understand why. But the thing is, lots of the cars just look different. You look at...
they're all designed by CAD-CAM, aren't they? That's the problem. Yeah. They're all designed for aero efficiency, blah, 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 blah. You've got this guy in the States who's just designed a diesel car engine, which is being ignored, that's doing 110 miles to the gallon. I think Tucker Carlson just interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, right? So, and he's saying with tweakage, they could probably get to 150, and if you get even better materials, probably even more than that. Now, if you take that and apply that to all the diesel trucks running in America, haven't you just effectively halved, possibly even reduced by 66% or something, all of the entire fuel bill for the nation? Isn't that worth something?
Not to mention emissions.
Yeah.
Well,
so there you go. So that's that done. We can't implement it.
There's a big difference, though. We've got this green agenda, which is just communist politics. But almost everybody, it's in their interest to have a pollution-free environment.
Yeah.
We don't want pollution. But that's a completely different subject to the communist environmental nonsense.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that Ukraine produces the steel, and they're doing it in the traditional way with coke and lime and iron ore, and yet all the other places they close down and open up windmills and that sort of thing, and then they wonder why we don't have any coal to produce steel anymore. It's like, well, because you shot yourself in the foot. And it's funny that the green and blue or the yellow and blue flag of Ukraine makes green, and yet we have this Green New Deal that's being foisted on us.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. That's a brilliant one. I never thought of that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. But
what's happening? It's crazy.
There's too many laws, too many regulations. It's over bureaucratic. That's the big problem. Everything is bureaucratic. Even a simple thing like parking your car, you got to check all over the place. There's a sign up telling you you're not going to get a fine or something ridiculous. It's getting so tedious. It's just becoming, well, the rules are claustrophobic. And I think you're probably freer in the Soviet Union or communist China in some places than in here now. It's ridiculous. It really
I'll give an
is.
example. In Russia, say I want to pay you back for, we go out to dinner or supper, and then you got the bill, and then I'm going to pay you back. All you have to do is know the debit card of that person, their number, and you can pay them back from card to card. Now here in America, we can't do that sort of thing. You got to cut a check, or you got to do some sort of PayPal or some other method like that. Whereas there, it's straightforward. You just bank to bank, no problem.
Wow.
And they can't do that here. It's ridiculous.
Well, I know that their council tax is £200 a year, whereas in this country, the average is £200 a month.
A month.
Yeah. And it's just, and you get your bins emptied every 2 weeks. So in the summer, you got maggots crawling out the bins, and it stinks. What's it like in where you are at Wisconsin? Do they empty your bins or anything like that?
We have to pay
council tax.
It's around $50 a month or more for a bin, and then they come every week and pick it up.
Every week we have to pay, as I say, which is about $250 a month.
This is a private company, though.
Once every two. Well, I prefer that. I mean, I worked it out where I live. There's 55 houses. If everybody chipped in, we could have a far better service than the council's providing. But
how often do they come? You
every 2 weeks.
Well, that's ridiculous, because then it sits and stinks and rots, and
that's right.
Terrible.
Midsummer, I mean, we have pretty hot. It's humid here during the summer. When they was doing the film, what was it? The Kubrick film in the City of London. Can't remember. It was about the Vietnam War. It was filmed in Docklands because they was knocking down a lot of buildings, and it looked
Full
like
Metal
parts
Jacket.
That's the one. Thanks, mate. That's much appreciated. And the advisors that were advising on the film, who had been to Vietnam, said it was just like Vietnam, the humidity. It was at the temperature, it was steaming hot, and you see the perspiration on the actors' uniforms. It was genuine because it was so hot. Because it gets very hot here. People don't realise that. Because it's an island, it's humid as well. And that's the worst thing, is humidity. Do you find that, Paul?
I guess at times, although I'm now being on the south coast, you see, and parallel to the wind.
It's a bit cooler.
We get bracing, we get lovely, all that ozone stuff and everything. It's everybody down here, they live for hundreds and hundreds of years, I think I mentioned to you before, there's a place down here where the vicar said it's where is it? Was it Hastings or somewhere like that? He said, it's where people come to die and forget. They just keep living.
That's Florida.
Is that right? Yeah, I guess Florida.
Yeah,
they just all
Florida.
Play dominoes, don't they? Or something like that. Well, it's a similar thing down here.
It's a bit cooler.
I'm part of that. I'm getting there. I'm getting all crusty. I'm not. I'm miles off. But
Well,
does it get briny? Does the air get briny where you can taste it?
Yeah. We get salty sea air. That's quite nice when it comes in. And a sea fret's great. I love sea frets. They're really exciting. You suddenly stood there, and then suddenly you can't see cars and things for about 10 minutes in the middle of a summer's day. It'll come in. It's really great. So it doesn't happen that often. Yeah, we
What's
get
that. Like a mist.
It's like a mist. It's like a sort of thing that a Dickensian character would emerge from, or something like that. Yes, it's misty and moist and all that kind of stuff. Moist and misty.
Well, I'm 38 miles from the coast. The nearest one is Malden-on-Sea, which is not quite close. It's but Southend, I suppose, is the nearest, which is about 40 odd miles away, 48 miles, something like that. And I was speaking to a chap that married an American lady, and he lived in the Midwest for a long time. And they decided to move back to little old England. And he said when he got out of the plane, he could smell the sea air. You could actually smell the sea, and that was in Heathrow. And he said it lasted for about a week until he just got used to it. But he said that around this country you can smell the sea air, although the locals don't, because we get used to it. I didn't realise that.
No, I guess it's possible.
Yeah, we don't really get that. So we have the Great Lakes, and they're all fresh water, so you don't get the brine.
Yeah.
But you get the lake effect.
But well, that's it. But the thing is, in the summer, it'll be cooler where you are, Paul, than it is here because you've got the sea.
Well, in the summer, we
bloody
also
hot.
get the attack of the seaweed. The beach here is very pebbly and rocky, and you get sort of stretches where you will have sand, of course, but you get these great rock pools with rocks in them, surprisingly, and all over them, probably starting pretty soon when the temperature goes up. It's been really sunny, but it's also been nippy, which has made it very interesting. But when it warms up, we get an abundance of seaweed, and that stinks to high heaven after it's been out in the sun a few days. It's really quite pongy, but apparently it's really, really good for you. You have seaweed soup and all this. It's full of the most tremendous stuff. So maybe I should go down there and start a seaweed harvesting business. Yeah, you can just pick it up. There's lots of guys down there digging for worms. Yeah, maybe that kind of stuff. What you were saying earlier, though, about I don't know, maybe it's just me. The idea of these sort of soft things, like organising our own refuse, producing our own agency that distributes passports. It doesn't matter that they're not usable. It's like a statement of something. Maybe I'm completely doolally. There's something in it, though. I just feel that there's something in it. It's all about marketing words. It really is. It's about marketing words and thoughts and feelings, which is our culture, and going, well, we just want to be like this, and we're going to be. And we've decided to set up our own office, and it's got just as much authority as yours because you're all a bunch of traitors and imposters anyway. And they go, no, we're not. We're going to take you to court. We go, okay. And then we get loads of publicity around it, and it bolts more people onto it. It's like, what would you call it? Event marketing. It's to gather attention. It's like, I don't know if I mentioned last week, I am interested in political parties, not so much because I even care whether they get elected, but as a communications platform. Any communications you make from a platform like that are heard differently. They're just heard differently.
Nick Griffin he's been promoting the British Freedom Party. What are they all about?
I don't know. British Freedom, I guess.
They're very small.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I like small parties.
We got the British Democrats around here, and they are, I believe, an offshoot from the BNP, because the BNP was absolutely decimated by, I believe, the Secret Service, because of what Nick Griffin was saying, that they had in their manifesto to abolish usury, and he was told, take that out of your manifesto, or we destroy you and your party. He didn't, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, well, we need to say that if you don't put it in yours, we'll destroy you and this country. Then we have a big fight, don't we? And we die. Is that right?
Well, because it's
that's really what it is.
Government.
You don't get to tell us what to do. We're going to destroy your banking industry. How? We don't know. We're just going to keep saying it. And then next week there'll be 50 people saying it, and the week after that'll be 25,000. And when we get 8 million, we're going to shout it at your face, and your head's going to come off until you take this down. We've got to. Something's got to change.
I agree with you. I mean, the thing is, we don't get, excuse my language, hairy-ass MPs or hairy-ass politicians coming around your door anymore. Now, the election, we've got local elections on the 1st of May, not government ones. And the local elections, the British Democratic Party is putting up, and they might come round the door. The small parties do come round the door, though I haven't seen them yet. And I told my neighbour this, ask just one question, and one question only. What is your party prepared to do to abolish usury? Full stop. And see their reaction. And that's all you have to do, just one question. And if they get that to every other door that they knock on, surely it's going to make a little bit of a... make them start thinking.
There you go. Yeah, it's things like... I don't even mind how small and ridiculous it all seems. It's like it's good market research. You should view it like that. Oh, we're not getting anywhere. Yeah, we are. We're building up a knowledge base. You've got to just do something. So that's why, all of these things, I think they're valuable. I won't mind working for a political party. I've got to tell you. Hello, this is the voice of the EBC. That kind of stuff.
What about the Fuckham Party? What about the Fuckham Party? Because I'm actually thinking of giving them a
That's what I want to know. Are you the leader?
That's right.
All right.
Well, I was actually thinking of giving them a fuck bob.
We'll have to have a committee.
Because when they're not going to... Yeah.
You know what it's like.
The Fuckham Hall Party.
Yeah.
That's got a good ring to it.
Yeah, the Fockham Hall party, and we could give them Fock Bob. I was going to give them a Fock Bob because on the reverse side, it's all
Well,
about
why don't we
usury.
form one? Look, form it. If you want to do it, let's form it. Let's have a part. Let's just do everything. Everything that they do, we just need to do. We do it really on the cheap with thin bits of
Fockham
paper.
Hall party.
Well, wasn't it a few years ago down in Italy, they had the 5-star party that was a joke, and it turned out that they ended up getting candidates elected and took over most of the government.
What about Titalina? Do you remember Titalina? She was a porn star, Italian porn star, and she used to go out canvassing. Yeah, her name was Titalina.
Did you just make that up? You made
No, I'd not made it up. There was a porn star who got a load of votes. She started a political party, and loads of blokes actually voted for her. And her name, slang name, was Titalina. That's what they called her. But no, it was around about the 1980s she put up. She's probably on a Zimmer frame by now. But there was also Cynthia Payne. She did a political party, and she was a high-class prostitute. Do you remember that where people pay for her services via luncheon vouchers? Do you remember that in years ago, Paul?
So that's what luncheon vouchers were for.
Yes. Her name was Cynthia Payne, and she called it the Pain and Pleasure Party. And she put up for Parliament and got votes.
Oh,
for
yes,
it. Pain
I
and
do.
Pleasure Party. Yes.
Yeah.
And,
if anybody knows the URL for the British Freedom Party website, could they stick it into the Rumble chat whilst
I
we're
sent
here?
you Nick Griffin on his Telegram had just posted something of his
cool.
video
Thanks, Patrick.
channel. I gave it to you directly too.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just thinking about this. A Fockham Hall party.
You should do it.
It could
You gotta do it.
international. Yeah, and I mean, it could
We
be
could do it
America as well.
internationally, yeah.
International. I mean, all our policies would be the policies of a party that could never be elected. So it'd be abolish usury. Anything else?
It's to do with the delivery. A lot of it could be to do with the delivery. The way it's just delivered. It must be so that
that's what comedy is.
Well, the
Mandate
purpose
home
would be to get
education.
people for the first time possible, or one of the purposes, to think about it. Because it's very difficult to get people to think about things 2 days in a row. Even something as important as this.
To help fairgrounds. Now, do you know on fairgrounds where you can shoot at little ducks that go along this line and you get a prize? Well, we could have politicians going along the lines and people could say, oh, I got him there.
Well, they used to have the dunk tank.
I'm joking, folks.
Well, they would do that with the dunk tank. They would have a chair above a pool of water, and if you throw a ball and hit the target, the politician.
Oh, I
would
did
go
that
into
here,
the dunk tank.
But
6
no,
minutes of talk time
I-
left, gentlemen. 6 minutes of talk time.
I'm sure you was joking there before anybody comes knocking on my door saying, talking about sort of hate speech and all that. Because what's happening now, people are putting, and I think it's part of the PSYOP to stop people giving a point of view. And they're now printing stories of old age pensioners being arrested on hate speech and things like that. And that's done deliberately to silence the rest of the population. It's very clever. Very,
Concentration camp guards in their 90s being arrested and put on trial.
Oh,
yeah, that kind of thing happened here. We had one guy from Ukraine. He got arrested and brought to the one of the international courts because of it.
Well, look at that Canadian fella. What was his name now? He died recently. Oh, I can't think of his
Ernst
name.
Zundel?
Zundel, that's the name, yes. A very nice man, a very polite man. And that's terrible the way he was treated.
We've got 3.5 minutes left, have we? We've got 4 minutes left of talk time. And you're doing a show on Sunday. And
that's right.
Maybe you'd like to say a word or two about what you're doing.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thanks, Paul. Well, it's going to be called the War Justification Industry. And it's the 80th anniversary. I don't know if that's the correct thing to say. It's an anniversary, but it's 80th year since World War II finished and World War III started. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be looking at it from a different point of view. It's basically reflecting on what my father, his viewpoints. I did interview him quite extensively before he died. But I'm only going to pick a few few minute extracts out of what we were saying. But what he did reveal is quite an eye opener, and what we know in the history books and what he can say from personal experience was two very different things. And I think we're going to get somebody rather, hopefully, a little bit more famous on the show as well. We won't mention any names yet because we don't know whether they're coming on or not. But
Tony Blair, I'm reaching out to him to get him on.
Lance Corporal Johnson reporting for duty and responding to the
Good grief.
Yes, but
Yeah, we'll see if we
that's
can get
about it.
Boris
The war
on.
justification.
Yeah.
But if you go onto warveteran.co.uk, you can see a film that I made some years ago called The War Justification Industry. But unfortunately, not all the links work on Chrome. And I think it works on Firefox and maybe Yandex. But you'll see The War Justification Industry. It's for about 5 or 10 minutes, this film lasts. And I think you might find it rather, I'd say, moving and educational at the same time. So I think it's
80 years on, no doubt. We'll be able to do a few more shows.
Well,
and things with it this year. We've so they can
Yes.
catch that on Rumble, and it also goes out on SOAPBOX, doesn't it, on Sunday evening, 8
That's
p.m.
right, and Windmiller as well,
Windmill.
and
Okay,
it's 8
cool.
p.m. UK time. Thanks, Paul, for that. It's much appreciated.
No,
And,
it's got to be done.
And
yeah,
you'll be joining us, won't you? And
should be absolutely.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yep. Absolutely.
And it'll be the sort of normal team there, and hopefully a few extras, and that's it.
Cool.
So,
Any last
thank you
words,
very
Patrick and Paul? And we've got about a minute and a half of talk time, and then we're going into a jolly old British song again, another one which I've dug up. So,
Well, everyone have a good rest of the Holy Week and a happy Easter.
yes. Yeah, good sentiments, Patrick. Absolutely right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Paul, you still there? You want to say anything? Or is he?
Yeah, keep your head down and your powder dry.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, everyone, for tonight. Let me just have a quick look at the old scoreboard here in Grumble, where everybody is. And thanks, everyone, for being in Grumble, and thanks for your comments tonight. Yeah, jolly good. BritishFreedomParty.com. Well, there we go. Thank you very much for that, XO. I'll give that a link and go and have a look. So that's all pretty good. Alvin Kurt was talking about something earlier on which I meant to mention. Oh, yeah, he's going to try and get a car engine running on Liberals' tears, which I thought was pretty good. So we quite enjoyed that as well. That's what we're going to do. We'll be back again, of course, same time next week, which is 8 p.m. here in the UK, 3 p.m. US time for another 3-hour show, I would imagine. And we'll keep on exploring all the things that we like to explore. Till then, have a fantastic time. And I'm going to leave you here with the thunderous tones of George Formby singing Chinese Laundry Blues, which is genuinely one of my favourite songs. I love this. I really do. There's something in the chord changes that are just great. Catch you all next week, everyone. Bye for now.
Now Mr. Wu was a laundryman in a shop with an old green door. He'd iron all day, your linen away, he really makes me sore. He's lost his heart to a Chinese girl and his laundry's all gone wrong. All day he'll flirt, scorch your shirt, that's why I'm singing this song. Oh, Mr. Wu, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of Limehouse Chinese laundry blues. This funny feeling keeps round me stealing. Oh, won't you throw your sweetheart overdue? My vest so short that it won't fit my little brother, and my new Sunday shirt has got a perforated rudder. Mr. Wu, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of Limehouse Chinese laundry blues. Now Mr. Wu, he's got a naughty eye that flickers. You ought to see it wobble when he's ironing ladies' blouses. Mr. Wu, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of Limehouse Chinese laundry blues. Now Mr. Wu, he's got a laundry kind of tricky. He starts me shirts and collars, but he never touched me waistcoat. Mr. Wu, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of Limehouse Chinese laundry blues.